Take a seat.
Hello, and welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, and I do appreciate you for tuning on in. We had a great turnout today during the game. Thank you to all of you guys that showed up there. Hit that like button, contribute to the channel, donate, new members, all of that. Thank you so very much. Well, let me tell you, that is one way to announce your presence with authority. New Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald came out in his first action as a head coach, not merely a NFL head coach, but as a head coach in a preseason game, which we'll let you all decide how much that matters or not, preseason or not. But I'll tell you, it was still a hell of a debut for the Seahawks' new head coach, for the youngest head coach in the NFL, who came out and conquered the master. The mentor took down the master. His old ball coach, Harbaugh, there 16-3 going into Los Angeles on the back of a very impressive win. That is very impressive at the first and foremost because of that defense. When the Seattle Seahawks went out and got Mike Macdonald as this defensive-minded head coach, some wondered if maybe this is what you want to really be doing in this modern age where everything is geared towards the offensive side of the ball. But there is indeed something that seemingly is a bit different about Coach Macdonald. He is a little bit better than just a good defensive coordinator, that there may be something cutting edge in his approach that comes from a couple of different places. It isn't merely being schematically brilliant. He is that. It isn't merely his ability as a motivator. He is that. It isn't merely his ability to be intricate and get that across to these guys and coach them up into understanding the intricacy, but simplifying it at the same time to make it easier to understand. He is that too. He is all of those things. And you saw his defense rise to the occasion in this first game. Is it a first game? Sure. But were we not all expecting some more bumps in the roads and ups and downs and irony wrinkles for the first game, where you're going from the most of simplified of schemes on both sides of the ball to the most complicated of schemes on both sides of the ball? But that is what happened today. Coach Macdonald came out, ran a pretty vanilla defense today. It wasn't those stack boxes we saw from last year in that Ravens game where we went on the road. There's a lot of four-man boxes, and what you see is what you get. They did mix up some coverages on the back end, but he was keeping things pretty close to the vest. And the Seahawks, right from the jump, from the opening drive there against this Chargers team, shut them down. And I put Suffocates in the title because it felt suffocating today. Far cry from the bend but don't break. Today was the we are going to break and break you on the opening drive, meaning we are going to get you off the football field, the ball back to our offense. Something that stood out about this football game throughout the whole course of the game. The Seahawks started this Chargers team out 0 for 8 in third downs. A very keynote stat for me coming out in this game is that it didn't matter who the quarterback was, he was not converting those third downs. You were getting off the football field and off the football field fast, even running those vanilla concepts like I'm saying that we were. It was just so impressive to watch from my angle of it, and that's a wide difference from what we've seen recently. Another key spot that you were looking for in this game is how is the team going to tackle? We've heard about these ferocious practices and fights breaking out, and you would hope that that would maybe then bear out a little bit of extra toughness perhaps once we do truly get to game time. And I don't know if that's what we saw today, but it looked close to it to me, as I couldn't count to my hand maybe, but I didn't see any notable true missed tackle. You might have had some quasi-missed tackles in there, but nothing of like what we'd see in the prior, where we might have one given play where we see 3-4 guys miss a tackle where they all had a really good chance to make that tackle. So something that also stood out from this defense. But they were on their P's and Q's. If the quarterback was able to complete a pass, and usually it was a short pass at that, that guy was being taken down to the ground immediately. Your Seahawks didn't even allow 200 total yards in this football game defensively. And that's going through every first, second, third, fourth stringer all the way down the line, even up until the end. It speaks to also, I think, a bit of the depth that this team is bringing. One of the places that I often point to about the potential of this team, and that this potential of this team is so much higher than you would typically see for a new coach coming in, for a new young head coach coming in, like we have. And that reason being is that not only have you already built up the strong young talent base, but the depth of the team has been more fervently built up as well. And that's when you're winning preseason games, is typically representatory of your depth as much as it is the starters carrying the job. And everybody did their job in this game. It's hard to really walk away and say, here's the star here. A lot of guys you could kind of hand that championship practice belt that they're handing out to, you could hand out here across the board. It did start out on defense with Tariq Woolen making a couple of plays. He first comes up and presses a guy up at the line of scrimmage, which you instantly start getting excited because he's up there pressing. Trey Brown's up there pressing. They're running man cover concepts on the back end. You're going, yes. He presses the man and he gives him a shoulder stab, sends the receiver back. Now the receiver scrambling to get to his slant route, gets there late, can't get his hands out in time. The ball's incomplete. It looks to the layman there like the receiver just dropped the ball. But you got to take note of first the press that sends him back and puts him behind the timing of the play. A slant route is based on timing, not the quarterback seeing the separation, but the timing of the throw. And he got it thrown off on that mirror play there with Tariq doing that kind of thing. And that's, again, something different a little bit from what we've done normally, a little bit more off coverage in recent years past. So this is where you're seeing the adjustment, and you're seeing the adjustment right immediately out in that first drive showing up. Come back a couple plays later, and Reek almost gets himself an interception off the rip there as well. Just goes right up through his hands. The receiver's eventually able to catch the ball after it bounces and carries him off, but it's not until he's about 2 yards out of bounds. There was no chance of him making the catch. Reek has been awesome in camp. Continued to carry that forward today in his game here. They didn't play him a lot of snaps, but the snaps he played, he was really good. The front four got the pressure for the most part throughout the game here. The Chargers weren't doing a lot of trying to push the ball up the field. They would throw the dink. They would throw the dunk. Our guys would then tackle the guy really quickly to the ground. But I thought Derek Hall came out and played really well. He had one play where he forced a sack and caused a sack for another guy, Sharif, the back end guy that we got on the roster right now, who was just crazy, went off crazy in that late third, fourth quarter range of things. But he was able to cause a sack. He was creating some pressures in the game. He got himself a sack, but he got it on the back of rookie Byron Murphy coming out and playing outstanding himself in his first action. Right from the rip, you have him come out there. He drives the guard back 2 yards, finds the ball carrier, takes him to the ground for a tackle for loss, and you're like, here we go. I'll have another. Cyril, I'll take a second ordering of that. Thank you. Comes back. Chargers start double teaming him. It's almost like they immediately recognize, oh, that guy's a problem. We can't single block him. Now they're putting double teams on him. You've got him doing this work from the nose tackle position. This guy's going to be at his most lethal from the 3 tech. But you've got him in there like we'd seen him in college, operating from nose tackle, being stout at the point of attack, being immovable at the point of attack. Then he comes looping around a little bit later on a pass rush, looping around, showing off that quickness and some of that bend that's unusual for a man of his size. Comes up, gets his hand around the quarterback, can't quite bring him to the ground, but by that point, the cavalry has arrived. Here comes Derek Hall. He's taken the ground for a sack, but it's on the back of Byron Murphy. He had another play where he was able to get around the edge to the other side a little bit later on, flush the quarterback up. The quarterback was able to scramble and get like 12 yards or 13 yards in the play. But every time your eyes drew to Byron Murphy in this game, you walked away going, wow, yeah, I can see how that guy there is a first-round pick and what he's bringing. So he was strong in what he brought as well. Uchenna Nwosu out there for a couple steps, like good. You had Dodson flashed early on, got in the hole and took down the running back on a nice little play where you saw some of his instinctiveness and quickness to get to the spot showed up there. Again, like some of these guys, once they showed good, they was like, okay, that's good enough for you. You can head on out. That's all we need to see. No, that was good. Jerome Baker's hurt. Just hop off the field. You're fine. No, you're fine. But then here comes Radigan. Here comes Tyrese Knight. Don't miss a beat. Those guys were, I thought, played really strong games. Radigan was very impressive at times in some of his instinctiveness and jumping on it, trusting his eyes, seeing it right, and then get it. No hesitation, no kind of, well, no, let me make sure I'm in the right place. I don't want to get beat over the top, but go get it when you see it. And I thought he did that a few different times. Corners all across the board looked really good. No Devin Witherspoon in my eyes tonight, or he got a very little bit of sample size of play. But the Auburn kids look good in a couple of little spots. You got a tip ball in this game where you're, again, spreading the vanilla looks, just dropping everybody into coverage, squeezing those zones. Quarterback makes a throw he probably shouldn't, gets his tight end hammered. The ball gets tipped up in the air. You get an interception to the opportunistic Kobe Bryant, who remains opportunistic. There's just something about this guy where the ball finds him, and if he's on the football field a lot. Remember that rookie year with the peanut Tillman punches he had, 4 or 5 fumbles caused. He had a couple of interceptions that year too, called back to penalties that had nothing to do with him on the play. But he does have a bit of a nose for a ball. Might be a bit of an inroad for him to eventually make the roster, something to probably pay attention to on this defense. Safeties were good too. Didn't do anything notable, but you didn't get burned over the top. You only gave up 200 total yards in this game, so pretty much everybody did awesome when it comes to the defense. It's hard to pick or push at anybody. The tackling was just on it. If they caught the ball, they were taken down. There's no doubt about it. You really didn't allow much in the run game. I think they averaged about 4.3 yards per carry. The lack of the third down conversion rate, it's really going to be hard for anybody to do any picking at this defensive performance in this game. It was kind of wild to watch from my perspective because you ran more vanilla than I thought you were going to run in this game. But then you were still so stifling running that vanilla. And I understand the Chargers have Easton Stick out there and they have the backups, but that's still a pretty good starting offensive line that they trotted out there initially. And it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So fantastic job by this defense. More of that. Yes, you just got to see a little bit of the shades cracked here. You didn't get the shades opened up and the window thrown open. You're just peeking through the shades right now. You're Peepa-Tomming it just a little bit. We're all Peepa-Tomming it through this preseason because he's not going to show us, it seems like, the full meal deal until we probably get to the year. But he absolutely took it to that Chargers offense. And those quarterbacks, you could feel back there, couldn't you? A lack of a comfortability, right? They're back there and you could just feel that they all were a little bit jumpy, a little bit nervous, a little bit unsure of what they were seeing, a little bit too willing to go and try to find that check down too fast. A little bit, and that's a little bit of, I think, what this defense does to you and how it makes you feel like you got those extra guys on the field at times. It's on top of you at all times. Offensively, on the other side of things, I thought Sam Howell came out and played really well through the first few drives. About first 3 drives out the gate, he was really smart in his decision-making. He seemed a little more assured in what he was doing on the field than what I saw in practices and what we've heard from him in other practices here through training camp. You didn't see the bad decision-making. You didn't see the near-miss interceptions out there. He was being smart with the ball. There was times he was under some pretty quick pressure because though Mike Macdonald was running a lot of vanilla schemes on his side of the ball, it seems Mike Minter for the Chargers, their new defensive coordinator, was out to try to impress his new head coach because he went buck wild with some of the blitzes that they were running and stack fronts that they were running. And this is against our offensive line that's got guys being swapped out throughout the game, right? And that's in preseason. If you're going to run those blitzes like that, you're going to make it hard on any offense because they're just not going to have that advanced ability to scout you up and get the protections prepared for what you want to typically do. And so it was a little bit of, I'm not going to say dirty pool a little bit here by Minter and the crew on that. They're free to let it roll. And frankly, I thought McDonald was going to kind of let it rip in that somewhat similar way because you'd want to try stuff out and iron out all the kinks. But it would seem that McDonald's not worried about the kinks, whereas Minter maybe is a little bit. But Howell handled that pressure really well. He was able to utilize his scrambling. You see he's got some escapability to him. He got out of one where he was able to spin out of it and use some of the power he's got in his legs to get out of it. He's not a Lamar Jackson type scrambler out there or Russell Wilson even kind of type scrambler out there. He's more of in the designs of sort of the Tim Tebow type, where it's not the 4.5-ish guy. It might be more of the 4.6, 4.7 guy, but he runs really strong, almost gives you a fullback level of strength and how he runs with it at times when he is in the open field. And he was able to make some things happen with his legs at times. And then again, just be smart with the ball. I thought you could catch some moments where he was going through progressions. You weren't seeing him rush things or get to something too fast. It's like, first check your look here, and then go over here. In this offensive grub, I don't think it was as sparkling a debut as what we got from the defense, but it was solid. You saw consistency throughout the game for both quarterbacks. You saw Grubb do what he does, which is that hard thing to pin down in his offense. When somebody asks you, what is Grubb's offense? What is it that he does? You go, well, he kind of hits you everywhere. He's kind of trying to do everything. Oh, my bad. Sorry about that. He's kind of trying to hit you everywhere. He's just going to bubble screen here and we'll take a shot down the field and we'll come down here to the drag and then drop back here, hit the flat route. And it just sort of picking you all over the place and then mixing the run in with it. And then with the run, it's not going to be hammering the inside. It will be A gap runs. Then we'll go outside zone. And then here's a pitch play. And then we'll come back to the fly sweep. And time for another bubble screen now. You're just always having him attack you into different places of the field and never getting to feel like from a defensive standpoint, you can lean in a direction to take away something. You always feel like you have to play it true with Grubb because he will attack you in that way. He will challenge you in everywhere on the field if he catches you or thinks he's catching you leaning. But a great job with his showing a little bit of that attack that he provides. While at the same point in time, I liked how he utilized the running game here, where you didn't feel like you ever went away from it too much or forgot about it too much. You always kind of came back to the pocket of, hey, we got some yards we can get here. And they were pretty consistent in the yards they were able to get on the ground. Laviska Shenault showed you why they gave him $1 million guaranteed contract this year and why he is going to make the roster. You can see what he gives you, which when he came out, what really got people flipped up, this is the same thing that threw people off on Cordell Patterson when he came out, is they look at these guys and they go, oh yeah, we'll develop him into a receiver and he'll run the full route tree and he'll do this and he'll run on double moves and he'll just be like, with his skill set, that'll really develop within him on that. You know, it's not, they're good players, but you can't put them into that box of that's who they are. They are more of these modern design gadget guys. Manufacture touches, get the ball into their hands and let them work into space. And you saw that here today with Laviska in a couple moments. First kick return from Laviska takes it back to the 45-yard line. He's the exact style of kick returner that I've been saying, a lot like Eskridge is too, that will flourish with these new rules. The new rules are not looking for the Dante Hall guy, the human joystick guy back there from a returner. It's looking for the guy's got to move, but it's an efficient move. It's a quick juke, and then you're hitting the seam. You're hitting that crevice. You're getting up in that crack of whatever the blockers have got for you, and you've got the acceleration to do it. So change of direction to acceleration. He's got that. Showed it off to you in a couple different ways here, both with the fly sweep, with the bubble screen. He's going to have that role, I think, in this offense minimum, and he's going to excel in that role. When people stop looking at him as be this, and instead looking at, no, this is what you actually are, that's when this kid, I think, will really take off into that role and fit to it really well. So you saw what Laviska brings to this offense on that side of it. It was, again, not much offensively to speak from. I think as far as a lot to, this guy showed that everyone was pretty solid. I thought the receivers caught what was thrown their way when they had the opportunity to do so, and that includes even the backups like Esau Winston Jr. Howell did start to have, to me, the wheels started to they didn't come off, but things started to get a little bit jumpy there for about 3 drives after his initial really good early success. Felt like some of the decision-making got sped up. The lack of recognizing the blitz got sped up a little bit as the game went along. He was able to kind of right the road there with the final drive he was given and get a couple first downs and make a couple nice throws. And overall, it was a solid performance and a step up from where he's been. At this point, we're just looking for him to kind of start to build this up from where it's been here in training camp, which is kind of at a low water mark. And so stacking good days up in training camp, stacked up a good day here. PJ Walker was okay on the other side of it. He made a couple of really nice third down throws to the middle of the football field. Notable that the Hawks did attack the middle of the football field in the passing game here in this game throughout when they threw. But he also had some throws that were pretty dangerous, almost had a pick six, had another one on a blitzer, threw it right into his face. Walker did a really poor job in this game of recognizing or even looking for at times when the blitz was coming. The one time he did recognize it, it seems like the play came in late and they had a delay of game penalty that wasn't really on him. He was trying to adjust, and some of it is just the pain in the butt nature of having a preseason game where the defensive coordinator on the other side of you is scheming things up, is running the blitz games, is treating it like it's week 6 of an NFL season a little bit, and how he's trying to run the defense. So both quarterbacks were probably going to struggle just, a little bit up against that. The running backs really were good, especially the first our 3 guys off the rip here. Charbonnet got 2 carries. He was in and out. They just were giving him a cup of coffee in this game. But the other 3 guys, Lewis, it was the back end guy just trying to fire. Boy, he ran strong. He's a 3-yard in a cloud of dust guy. He'll get you the 3 yards no matter what, no doubt about it. But the other 2 guys also showed out really well. We were really looking at where's McIntosh going to be. We're hearing about Holani right up on his heels as maybe that third down back. McIntosh came out and ran wonderfully. I think he showed you what you saw from him in the Georgia tape. He looks a little undersized when you first see him getting the ball. Is that a receiver getting the running back? Is that a receiver at running back getting the ball? But he runs bigger than his size. And though he doesn't have the 40 time, which is why he wasn't drafted but by the 7th round by the Seahawks, that's why he dropped. Not because he didn't have a really good skill set or could bring something to the field, but teams go, maybe he's just not fast enough. He has the burst. And the 10-yard burst for a back is every bit, if not more important than the speed, and he showed you that. So a little bit of McIntosh tonight, gets through some early problems with maybe some penetration in the backfield, acceleration, turning something that might look like maybe a negative 1 yard gain into a 5-6 yard gain, or getting a 5 yard gain out to 12, 13 yards with that burst. But he was strong on all of his runs. And then Hololani, if he's at his heels, if he's nipping at his heels, he didn't lose any space despite how well McIntosh played in this game. Because Hololani was absolutely awesome as well. And same thing. This is why I've noticed that if you see in the college tape, and then you're seeing it now as a pro, we get a little bit more confidence as that can maybe translate as we go with two guys that we don't know a lot about on the pro level. We start to feel that can translate now to them as a pro. And in Hololani, you have the change of direction, you've got the balance, and much like with McIntosh, you have the burst and actually a little bit of speed with Hololani. He's got the double package, but that touchdown run where it's supposed to go inside, he's hemmed up in there. Not really any penetration, but it's kind of all closing in around him. And he just does a little juke and bounces it outside, hits the acceleration button, gets to the edge and gets to the touchdown. He had a couple of runs today where he made a little bit of something out of nothing, showing he can also run with a little bit of power for his size because he's not a bigger back. But we feel like we're in really good hands right now with the running back position. Your four are going to be strong. You're probably going to be able to stow away a pretty good guy as your practice squad guy. And hopefully that will just keep this running back room reinforced, as we know it vitally tends to need to be because of sometimes the striking of the beast mode curse. Not this year, hopefully, but I'm just saying. The only other aspect I just want to speak to is offensive line held up pretty good. Nothing. It was a little back and forth. Hard for them at times because of all of those blitzes to sometimes judge, because it's just going to be tough in these kind of preseason games for that. But the special teams held up their end of the bargain for the most part. We struggled a little bit with the return game. Jason Myers missed a PAT, but then he missed it. He also made a field goal from 48 yards out. And Michael Dixon, a guy that probably doesn't get talked about enough amongst Seahawks fans, and a guy that certainly doesn't get any kind of recognition nationally in the way that he should. And what I mean by that is that you look at punters, they have about 4 different metrics you can use to judge a punter and how good they are. Net, what's your net average? What's your gross average? What's your rate of inside the 20 rate percentage? What hang time? You go through all these items that you can try to pinpoint to take down and distill a punter to how good that punter really is. And with Dixon on all of these metrics, if you look across the board with him, he is having an all-time great start to a career for a punter. I know that doesn't get fans super excited and all up in arms like, woo, but it is awesome. And he's still a young player, and he's a big part of what can help you win games, as he showed you here today. 3 kicks inside the 20-yard line, had them pinned back all day, making them feel like they got one of those fields where they feel like they're in Montana. The field's so long to get to the other end zone by how he was pinning them back there today. Outstanding work by Dixon. He remains from day one. He has been great. And if a punter can be on a Hall of Fame trajectory, if that is indeed still possible in this day and age, he is hitting the marks that would require to be hit to be on that trajectory. Not saying it's happening or that he's there already. I'm just saying that the trajectory is onwards onto that path. So this was an outstanding win to me, end to end. Defense certainly carried the day. The other parts of the team did their part. You feel like the intensity of these practices are hopefully maybe coming out in this. I'm not trying to give it all credit for it, but this certainly seemed like a team that was ready to play, ready to face the challenge here. They were on the road. They weren't at home getting the fans at their back. Yet to me, they played with a lot of fire and a lot of spirit, and you felt it from the first man on the roster all the way to the back end of the man on the roster. So a great opening step here by Mike Macdonald, a very encouraging opening step here by Mike Macdonald. And it's going to be hard not to get the hype train rolling here. I'm going to try to keep it calm. I'm not going to take too much away. This isn't an end result to what's going to happen on the season, but it's a great first step. Let me know what you guys think here. Were you feeling this game from the same place as my standpoint of, from end to end, that this was in so many ways exactly what you would have wanted to see from this team for a first bit of action, and what you would ideally want to see from this team in a first bit of action? Because that's how it feels for me. This feels like this is the defense didn't have any mental errors, no mistakes. The tackling was on point. The intensity was there. You were balanced offensively. The offense fitted to Grubb's stylings and what you would expect from him. And so, though we may not take a final point from this last thing I want to say, we may not take some final conclusion to the season from this game. I do think, though, there is something to be said for the fact that that stuff wasn't there. That the miscommunication, broken coverages, not sure on what I'm supposed to be doing. The offensive side of the ball with the air raid offense looking like it's completely in over its heels. Like you go watch, for instance, the Giants offense a couple nights ago with Drew Lock there at quarterback. And go look at that offense versus this offense you watch here today. And it was more on track. It was consistently together. That there wasn't these holes. If those holes had been showing up, if we saw the defense having the miscommunications and blown plays and the Chargers running up and down the field on us, and you're going, boy, Mike's going to take a little bit of time on this one. We certainly aren't encouraged towards the season starting. So at least we can say that if that's the minimal place that we can operate from, is that it's not in disarray. It's not a wonder whether or not Mike Macdonald knows what he's doing here or whether he's ill-equipped to do this job. He is equipped. He's going to get it done. Is it going to happen fast? I don't know. But certainly I walk off the back of these performances and I go, that's a pretty strong opening step, man. That's announcing your presence with authority. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you watching. Thank you to everybody on the channel who watched today during the live stream show. We had a great turnout on that. I really do appreciate it. I want to thank the sponsor of the show, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy's got specials going on right now, including a statewide special for Angel Reese. 0.5 points or higher in an WNBA game. You parlay that together with a couple of other picks, and you win yourself some money. Go right now, head-to-head, daily fantasy and baseball. You use my code right now. My code is NEST, Nest, and you use that code for the very first time on Underdog Fantasy. Whenever you do that, they will match you now not $100, but $250 on your first deposit when you use my code NEST, or click down in the description section link below, which will automatically plug the code in. Either way you want to do it, but use my code NEST, and not $100, but $250 for a very short period of time will be matched if you use my code for that first time. Thank you to Underdogs Fantasy for sponsoring the show. Thank you guys for watching. Enough of me blabbing. Let's hear where my people are coming from. Let's hear what you guys got to say. I'm very interested to see. I think we're going to be gassed up tonight. That's my early call on this one, but we'll just have to see where it goes. High and lows. How you doing, man? Stefan, what's up? Let's go. Ricardo Jamarcus, what is going on? He says, was overly impressed with how the defense played. Offense has some stuff to clean up, but that was just about everything we could have asked from Mike. You stole the words out of my mouth on that one, Jamarcus. That's my feeling on this too. I go, well, if I wrote down a list of things, okay, A, B, C, D, E, E, I want to come into this game and I want to get these things done. Would this list pretty much consist of not the results you just saw? Yeah, they kind of would. So it's going to be hard for me not to be a little bit gassed up. I'm going to dial it back, okay? I'm going to catch myself, Jamarcus. But I'm going to say it, I'm getting a little more excited about the season. You know? Tony 10 times, 206. Go Hawks. Go Hawks. Let's go. Stephen Gookian, physical. They were physical today. We controlled things. We controlled things on that line of scrimmage. Whenever those Chargers only had the four-man front, we were, especially in the ground game, a lot more in control. When they started stacking boxes and putting, okay, when they started overloading things, it was a little bit more balanced. But then defensively, we absolutely controlled the line of scrimmage. Mike Morris was beasting out there too. He had a really solid game in addition. I didn't mention him, but he was another guy inside, outside, out in coverage. Goodness. Ryan B says, only bad phrase was the Harbaugh-led one. Yamo Lemovic says, we got Mike for this very reason. I think the only question will be the offensive line. But if Abe comes back, I think we have a chance to take it as far as we'd want. I agree. Eventually, I do think the offense is going to make its hay here, and Abe's a big factor on this. And certainly today, you look at the right tackle position, you have McClendon Curtis, who is truly a guard playing tackle. You're protecting George Fant. You don't want to run him out there in preseason because right now Fant's de facto starter until you're sure Abe Lucas is ready to roll. And you need those guys strong. You need them ready to go and hold up over there. You don't want McClendon Curtis out there starting 17 games for you for a season. So Abe's got to get back. It's a big pivot point of this year becoming successful. It's not just all the schemes coming together, but if you stabilize down that right tackle position with already what we're hearing about Charles Cross and how good he's looked throughout the training camp, ready to take that big final step to the player he's going to become, now you have the makings of a a real top-notch offensive line, especially with Connor Williams in the fray. And if this offensive line can be a top-notch one, you already know you got the receivers. You already know you got the running backs. You pretty much have the tight ends too. Ant 23, Miles Adams and Byron Murphy are really good pass rushers. Yeah, Miles Adams showed up a little bit here today too on that. Yeah, he flashed a bit as well. And he's going to make it hard on this. He's going to make it hard on the defense because you can only have so many bodies on that defensive line. And there's going to be some good guys, some good players. But Murphy was a standout. He popped from the jump. This kid's going to be a good player. Another guy who's had a really good training camp. And this is just more of a culmination onto that. When people want to push back on me on guys having a good OTA or a good training camp or good preseason games, I often tell them it's not about this one moment of this thing happening. It's that they're stacking these things up. I've stacked my good OTAs with a great training camp, with a great first preseason performance. I'm showing out in those preseason games, and now it's not a surprise, or it's not as hard to predict of when I come to day one, I am a player on this team. I am capable of coming out there and helping this defense out from day one. And that's where he's heading to right now is Byron Murphy. Seattle Supersonics, boom, shakalaka. Niners lost. Hawks won today. It was a good day. It was always a good day when you win and the Niners lose. That's for sure. Yamo says, but we can't sit here and act like we weren't winning preseason last season. It's good to see we have a winning mentality, but they truly mean nothing. They're certainly not a big harbinger necessarily to regular season success. They're not. But I do think that this is also a very unique preseason period for your Seattle Seahawks because they are instituting two new schemes on both sides of the ball, because you have the youngest head coach in the NFL with his first game action. And we have seen plenty of these young coaches, Brandon Staley, who have come out and certainly looked in over their head and not really ready to be the man in charge. And we aren't seeing that, at least. But I would say you're right in that we shouldn't take any final conclusions from this or try to draw anything of finality about the regular season from this performance necessarily. He almost says facts. He was running with some purpose. He wants that third spot. He was. McIntosh wasn't going down easy. And you saw that with Georgia. Part of why I liked him so much as a back is you give me a back that's not going to, Marshawn Lynch said, part of what instructed Marshawn Lynch of his approach to the running back position was being told by a coach when he's a young man, never die easy. Guy gets you. And a lot of backs will go, okay, he's got me. Right? I'll fall down. I'll give in to him. That's dying easy. There's the guys that you're getting around like, that's beast mode. That's where beast mode is born. And today you saw McIntosh enlisting a lot of beast mode. That's not a big back, but he runs with a lot of ferocity. Very excited for him. It's good to see. High and Low says, can we finally stop the Niners from scoring 30 points on us every game now? Yes. I'm not saying we're going to dominate them, but you've removed the easy cheese off the plate. They're going to have to work for it now. Steve Rogers, interesting that Turner had no stats. Didn't hear his name. Turner. I don't know why I'm blanking here on. I don't know who you mean by Turner. I'm probably having a brain fart. Ran the cut. PJ looked bad. Yeah, he was. PJ's got limitations to the position that he brings as a quarterback, but his processing power is not high. They had the play action where he almost got the pick six, and as he's rolling the play action into the belly of the running back, he's staring at the receiver. And it's those little details of the quarterback position. I mean, you've got to use your eye discipline in those moments where you can't just be like, let me look at him. Let me look at him. You stared him down for the whole purpose of then having the corner come up and almost pick six you and jump the route. And that's where you've got to keep the eye here, and then you go out. And once you got it through the belly, then you come up and look. But he wanted to already sit there and stare it down and make sure that it was going to be open and true and right. And there was a lot of that. The lack of recognition of the blitz stuff I don't know if Grubb didn't give him a message or if, what was going on. It was obvious the Chargers were starting to dial the blitzes up as you got into the third quarter. Like, they're not going to just stop this. They've decided this is what they're doing today. And the quarterbacks had a couple of moments, Howell included on this, where they just didn't take the time to recognize what was coming or even look for it. Just kind of, you're in that hurry to snap the ball. And to be good at recognizing the blitzes is sometimes having that calmness of presence of mind to come up there and really assess what you're seeing across from you. Look, give everything in the true Terminator scan. You know? Yeah. Don't just, and we're down. Yamo says, PJ is the third quarterback. That's what they displayed. He got big 3 conversation. That's all you can ask for. Yeah. He's certainly not upending Hal in the number 2 role. Jag Sports Talk with Jose Rodriguez. I was at the game. 1, great defense. 2, Sam Howell is not my backup. 3, next week is going to be more competition. It's great to hear. I was hoping it was a great game, Jose. I know you're over there locally, so you're out there to be able to check it out. And boy, that defense looked good, man. They look real good. Steph, this team is special. I hope so. JD says special's a bit dramatic. This is preseason. Jeff Logan says it was a good game today, but we can't get too excited yet. I'm excited for the regular season, though. I am too, Jeff. And it is to me, if I think that's the place where if we go to the conclusion spot, to me, it's not about concluding this team's contending. This team's going to win the division now. But more, it would be, I'm trying to think, that they're not on that low end of it. Is this a team that'll be in a state of complete transition this year? 4 wins, 5 wins, not trying to find that identity, trying to understand the identity Mike Macdonald's trying to create, trying to adapt to the air raid offense of Grubb and understand how the college principals can transition, trying to have Grubb understand what will work that he can take from the college level and what he's got to leave at the college level without those wide hash marks. That wonder, I think, is a little bit removed. I completely am with the tap the brakes on dominance or contending or playoff team for sure, but I would say we can go gas on not a bad team. And maybe that's too much off, but it's also not just off the back of this game too, I'd say with that. It's off the back of what we've heard from the team out of training camp, what we're hearing from the players, what we're hearing from people, connected coming in. A guy like Cam Chancellor going and talking to Richard Sherman and telling him about what he's seen in camp and going, this is going to be something here. Y'all going to question Cam? I'm not questioning Cam. Y'all want to be the ones to question Cam? You go question Cam. I'll ride with Cam's opinion on this one. But you're right, Jeff. We got to maintain. Nicholas, I'm glad Grosskridge didn't get hurt. You never know. Something might swell. Yeoman says dominant equals refreshing. Yeah, that was kind of nice, isn't it? And nice just be up by a couple touchdowns. Kind of nice to be in the victory formation, huh? Proud Liberal says, without Connor Williams, Abraham Lucas, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Noah Fant, Kenneth Walker, and Geno Smith, they dominate. I do think that would be the case. And let's not forget with this Charger team, if they were even at the full strength, even if they were with their guys out there running all the way, we played basically that Charger team 2 years ago. And I think we came out of that game pretty easily won as well. Benelli, Brando, how'd the Hawks look? I'm on the North Slope in Alaska. I couldn't watch. They looked as great as you could ask for a first game on McDonald. Without making it sound like I'm gassing up too much. I want to keep checking myself a bit on that, but they were as good as you could hope to be in the first action. And defensively, you saw all the hallmarks of what you were hoping to get in here with Mike Macdonald's defense, just minus some of the intricacy of the fronts, quite frankly, and the blitzes. They might have blitzed in this game twice, but everything else was on point. And you guys might not have got the alerts, by the way. Nicholas Newton says, hey, B, holding a hand grenade to get notified today. So the thing with the alerts on these post-game discussions is that because I don't know the exact times of how it will sync up, I can't do them in advance as much. And you have to put them down in advance on the post-game discussions because if the game goes long, it might be 9, it might be 10. So that's why you guys don't get a notification as I put these streams together late and they'll pop late. But that'll be the nature on the post-game discussion streams. You'll just have to kind of keep an eye out on your feed because there's not a really way to set them up in advance. Randy got a Reek pick would have been the cherry on top. That would have been awesome. He had his hands up there. He almost got it up. And that quarterback was smoking that ball through, so he did make it easy. Yeah, Kobe Bryant almost had 2 picks on tip balls. A lot of tip balls with Seahawks players right there to get the tip off the carom. That type of stuff was definitely warming Coach Carroll's hearts when he was watching that from the couch, no doubt. Like, yeah, there we go. Everyone around the ball. Be ready. Be active. And Grenade says, if we did that with just our 2s, oh my, what are we going to do with our 1s? Going to get tasty. That's why it's going to get real tasty. Tap breaks. Don't get too excited. I'm trying. It's hard. Jeff said we did get lucky in the second half with PJ Walker 3 plays in a row. Yeah, he did try a couple times there to give the defense one. And they were bad plays all the way around. The lack of seeing the blitz when it kept happening to him, like, bro, blitz is coming. It's coming. Yeoman says we have depth. Wish we played Jim Harbaugh every week. Yeah, it's not a bad matchup for us. Definitely a good fit. James Stradley says I can see the potential of the defense becoming scary. Go Hawks. I as well, man. I as well. Just a peek through the curtains and look at that. Italian Knight 78 looked like the old Legion of Boom days. Defense swarming to the ball. It did. It did. A lot of kind of a great irony, I guess, a little bit there, right? Italian Knight, and that you guys were right on top of players constantly. There was just no room to breathe for that defense, for that offense. That it felt like you had extra players on defense at times. That you had so many things covered. There was just no free spaces to go to. Yeah. Steph says, "Go Hawks! The Lambs and Whiners are in trouble, and the Red Sea isn't rising." I don't think it's rising yet either. I think it's, I'm not saying Cardinals are going to be a walk, but I think they've been a little bit pushed, a little bit too much. Just a tiny bit this offseason. We'll see on that. But the Niners and the Rams, another team, 2 teams too. Niners still trying to figure out that Brandon Ayuk situation. Still, they got Trent Williams, I think, still holding out. They're just trying to get their guys in the door, much less get them trained up and ready to go for the season. Dune Moose, the vibe is great. Sideline attitude was great. What an encouraging start to this new era. Excellently put on your part. Excellently put. And I agree. Same way. I just think this is a great opening step. It could have gone so many other ways of a bad nature, and this is completely opposite of that. Radu says, did you really see McIntosh in the slot or running routes out there? Not really. No, I don't think I saw him in the slot. He was really just used as a running back. I think they might have thrown one ball to him like in the flat. They were doing kind of that running back flat route, Radu, where they just sort of go out here and quarterbacks dun, bump, and then hit the guy out there. But I think it was mainly what he was doing, carrying the rock as much as anything else. But I don't think they tried that. Yeoman says, time for a Reno trip. Lay down a little bet. Z-Lords is not going to overact to one preseason game, but by God, that was encouraging. I think encouraging is the great word. Not only that's a gas up if you say encouraging. I think that's it's a fair thing to take away from. And not a lot of bad to look to. That's what you're looking in preseason is what is the good? What is the bad? There's so very little pickings of bad to pick through in this game. You ran the ball well. You were balanced. Quarterbacks played relatively well. You got a little bit of the PJ Walker blips in there and a couple drives from Sam where he's a little bit dicey, but otherwise than that, receivers caught the ball, running backs ran hard, got extra yards when they weren't there to be had. Defense tackled, played discipline. You got pressure with the front four. You didn't have to unveil a lot of your scheme. It is hard not to just find the encouragement within that for sure. Ryan B says, Kobe Lewis gave me flashes of Collins. Rest in peace. He was good. I was really impressed by Lewis. And when he was out there, it was like, keep giving that kid the rock. You just felt like he could, Chargers, especially that defense in that second half, kind of felt like at times it was starting to wear down maybe a little bit. And we can kind of, and they had that goal line stand, so they kind of rose to meet the challenge a little bit, you could say. But you were sort of sitting there going, give him a little, keep giving that Lewis kid. He's a hammer in there. DVN says, it's okay to feel a little good, man. I think we are the only team to hold another team to a field goal this preseason. Let's go. Let's go. Hoist Hand Grenade says, yo, I didn't see us playing 5 yards off the ball. Press coverage. Man coverage concepts, off press coverage. 2 new things you're going to see this year, and you're going to see them mightily quite a bit. And you got to see today of why I love press coverage and I love man coverage with it. Because like that slant there with Tariq Woolen, you can be beat and still win. If I'm beat in the old defense, if I'm running cover 3 and they run a slant, I'm in off coverage. I'm dropping to bail depth post snap. They run a slant inside of me. There's nothing that I can do. Let me say it again. There's nothing humanly I can do in that moment. You're going to complete that slant pattern unless my linebacker can buzz underneath and get to it, and usually the linebacker can't. So now instead of that, you have Reek up and press. Reek can press any receiver in this league to death because of the fact that the guy's 6'3" with 35-inch long arms. Presses the receiver back, stifles the timing of the route. That helps to cause the incompletion. It's you taking it to the offense, forcing the hand of the offense, making them make a play, not giving them a play, making them make a play. If I'm in cover 3, off coverage, bail depth drop, and you run a slant, I'm not making you make a play. I'm giving you a play. And that's going to be a difference in this team you're going to see, man. Well spotted. Walker look good out there? Oh, PJ Walker. Oh, you mean PJ Walker. Buddy said Walker looked okay out there. Not good, not bad. He wasn't bad. And those third down throws were big boy throws. You know, those in-cutting routes that he hit down the field where he had to put the ball in just the right spot, small window. Shows a little bit of velocity on those throws even, along with the accuracy. But the bad decisions are the ones you got to carve out. You know, the good throws are good, but you can't have the turnover-worthy plays. You can't have the stupid throws that are easy to avoid. And that's something Sam Howell did do a good job of today versus Walker, was not having those moments that went, can't make that throw there. I thought in a lot of cases you had moments here in this game with Sam where the play got upended. It wasn't his fault. The defense blew the blocking protections up, or they caught him with the blitz. They're trying to run a screen, couldn't get a pathway to throw it to the screen man, just dirt it, throw it away, live to see another day. There was a 2nd and 4 in particular where he was rolling out, and I think like a Sam Howell from last year would have maybe tried to force the action on that, force the play, throws it away, comes back 3rd and down and 4, completes the 3rd down, 1st down, let's keep going. And you saw a little bit of that maturity, I think, from Sam in his game and here out there, versus a little bit of that from Walker on the other side of it. But Walker wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Ethan Tech World, thank you for the $2 donation, Ethan. I really do appreciate you for that. Says Brando, that 3rd down defense is damn impressive. Very impressive, especially because there wasn't much blitzing to go with it. Just 4-man fronts, trust the 4-man protections, and then we're gonna beat you with the coverages on the back end. And you roll that in deference to what the Chargers were doing on the other side, where they were running a lot more wild stuff. Very impressive. You had great 3rd down defense today on vanilla defense. You stopped them on the first 8 attempts that they tried to go get a 1st down. You stopped them in this game to begin the game. They were well into the 3rd quarter before they've got their first 3rd down conversion. Very impressive. Very impressive. Thank you, Ethan. Good to see you in the house too, man. Jay Stern, thank you for being a member of the Hawks Nest for now over a year, 13 long months. I appreciate you for that, Chase. He says, great defense today. Mike Mack looks the part. Also, don't know who 44 is, but he can play. Probably won't make the roster, though. Well, we have our this year's Levi Bell. Our Levi Bell is on the roster, and he's kind of a monster. I'm going to have to look into this kid. And, he's not even listed on the, ESPN depth chart. But Sharif, the Sharif kid coming off the edge, I think he had like 3 consecutive plays that he created pressure. Explosive, bendy, quick. Yeah, he was, I was unaware of his game. I was unaware of that one. Ant23 says, crazy thing is Mike Macdonald only showed like 25% of his defense. That's my point on this too. I'm glad you saw the same thing or seeing it the same way, Ant, in that it's impressive you come out here and you're running all of your wild stuff and you're saying, okay, they're trying to iron out kinks. So therefore, Macdonald's dropping the full book on the table and going, let's ride, boys. Who cares about the preseason? Let's go crazy. Instead, Mike's like, I'm going to hold it close to the vest. Here's a page. You can have a page, Dirty. 1 page. Okay, here's one more. It's the second quarter. I'll give you another one now. You're going to have to wait till the fourth quarter, though, for a whole nother page. Okay, fourth quarter. Last page. You get by on this one now. That's all we got. Regular season. Got to wait. Cards close to the vest. Kind of a bit like that. And yet you were able to dominate on the back of that. Which it does make it a little bit of a horse of another color. Honcho, thank you for the $2 donation. I really do appreciate you. He says, we are all in that first date went well stage. We did. We're like, she's beautiful. She's charismatic. She's funny. She's funny. I was expecting that. She's that too. Yeah. It's definitely the honeymoon era too on that, to your point, Pancho, right? Everyone's in the initial glow of things. So it's a good point. Very good point. But we're all just sitting there in bed, dreaming of what could be, looking up, She's so cool. It's going to be such a good, man. Radu with a $2 donation. Thank you for that, Radu. Says, not sure Roman is the correct coordinator for the Chargers. No. In fact, I will second your motion to be passed on that one. Mark Roman was the perfect offensive coordinator for Colin Kaepernick. Mark Roman was the perfect offensive coordinator for Lamar Jackson as a rookie quarterback going and becoming a quarterback. But Mark Roman is that guy who should be there for a specific quarterback, specific system to run things specifically. And Justin Herbert is not that guy that fits to that mold. This should be more to me of Harbaugh looking for that guy that maybe would open things up a little bit. And Harbaugh's got that faith in the old style of things. And maybe we'll come to find that he'll hold on to the old style of things a little bit too long. Or a coordinator like this, he'll look at it as saying that's not the right move for what I have here in Herbert. Does seem like, too, they're going to be dead set on being heavily run-based and limiting a little bit of the volume throws of Herbert, too. So we'll see if the direction works there with the Chargers on going this mode with it. It's almost a little bit of like Herbert with the Oregon Ducks offense. We'll see, man. We'll see with it. But yeah, that's one I wasn't as big on. You give me a running quarterback who's like a first-round pick, and we're trying to maximize that first-round contract for the first 4 or 5 years and hoping he can just get glued together as the runner. Roman's your guy. If you've got a true 6'5" rocket arm, can make every throw in the book guy, I don't know. I don't know on that one. I'm with you there. Garth Knight, thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate you for that, Garth. And thank you for all your support today during the channel as well. Says Brando, what is Pete Carroll doing in his supervisory role? I'm worried he could be walking around the VMAC writing "Win Forever" too. Well, indeed, I think that the role is, like many of us thought initially out the gate, was to a bit Garth soften the impact of the a little bit of the firing, essentially, and that was not the messaging that the Seahawks wanted to get across. That's not what they wanted to do with Coach Carroll. I think that while it is a little bit of a PR thing in the advisory role, I also think that there was a little bit within the advisory role from the Seahawks perspective of kind of hoping Carroll comes a little bit back into the fray. And I've always related it to his predecessor, Bill Walsh, and Walsh making the similar kind of transition from when he was the coach to that advisory role capacity with the San Francisco 49ers. And I don't always have very good, I'm not usually connected into stuff for you guys to give you guys things that I know for certain about from an insider's perspective on things. But I know that the team and Coach Carroll both have an inroads for that situation to play out as I just described. As you can kind of take, so as though it may be, and again, I don't often reference to you guys kind of knowing of direct insider stuff on certain things. This is when I will, in that there will be a mutual opening on both camps. And it would not surprise me in the least if at some point this season you do see Coach Carroll in-house here helping out in some way or another. Maybe able to make a little bit more of a closer peace with the situation for how it played out at that point. Make of that what you guys will. Was the anger did we old Yeller Pete? No, I don't think we did. I think that we just, in Pete's case, I believe this about Pete. Pete could be a great head coach still, I think. I think that the motivator he is, the culture he can create, the program he can put together, the energy that he fosters that's unique to him, that's so hard for other coaches to similarly foster, could still allow him to be a great coach. But it does come down to having the coordinators you can trust, to not having to be as intricately linked into both sides of the ball as he once was, and assuming more into that role of a head coach, kind of being the overwatcher on things rather than into the depths of it a little bit. And I don't know if he'd want to do it that way, but he may also come back a year from now and say, oh, that's what I'm going to do. If Carroll came back next year and got a head coaching job and hired two young dynamic coordinators on both sides of the ball and was like, I'm not going to run this anymore on this, I'm going to do this. And it wouldn't shock me if he's come to that place on it and then found success with it. So he's got the energy to still do it. He's got the love of the sport to still do it. It really comes down to, I think, a specific thing there with Carroll on riding a bit of the ship to find a footing on that into the long-term future of it. And if he can do that, and that was, of course, the hard bridge for him to cross with us at the end of those last 2 years, on both sides of the ball, I would say, then you could still find Carroll being still very good ball coach. Because the things that he still does well are the things that, does Bill Belichick still motivate at the same level he once did if he was ever a motivator? I don't know. Can he create the same kind of culture with these new young players? I don't know with Bill Belichick on that. Carroll, I know he could do those things with those guys. But he's got to change those. It's that schematics, it's that approach. And some of that is just inherently who he is on that, kind of. Thank you, Garth. Appreciate the $5. Birdman, then we got analytics on Byron Murphy. Don't have anything yet. PFF usually is about a day later. They'll drop the PFF score stuff. Jag Sports Talk with Jose Rodriguez says, I was happy to see Kobe Bryant make plays in LA like another Kobe Bryant. Yes, sir. He had a little bit of that Mamba spirit shooting through his veins there, Jose. Almost had himself 2 picks. Kid's just got a nose for the ball, I tell you. Just a nose for the ball. Little Drip says Wallace had a big hit. Yeah, he did have a big hit. That quarterback stick sold his tight end out. That's a throw quarterbacks wouldn't used to make 20 years ago because they'd get their guy rocked Like that would be a concussion waiting to happen. Now, guys go low and destroy the ACL. Still doesn't make it a good throw or good decision by Stick in the moment. Dune Moose. Bennett and Robinson's commentary saying how the Hawks looked coached up and complimenting the fundamentals, jumped on the field with the defense, speaks to Coach McDonald. Love it. That's the specificity that we go to of what is it that needed to be fixed on this team. And a little bit of what I was just talking about with the prior Coach Carroll point. There are many great things Coach Carroll still does and did do here. It's not a bad ball coach all of a sudden. It's not. It's those specific things that needed to be addressed on this team, because those things were the things where you were really bleeding a little bit. You know, it was like they were arteries. And the artery was just pumping. It was just spots on the body. The body as a whole was good, but the arteries were just too much for how much blood you were leaking out. And he's come in there to suture up the wounds, close off not the ventricle. I'm not going to use medical terms. I'm going to try. I'm not a doctor. But he's here to grab and take on those certain items and specifically get those things addressed. And yeah, you did feel like you saw it tonight. It's good to hear that Bennett and Robinson saw some of the similar thing, and I'm seeing it to my eyes too. And these are the things that stand out in what has been missing recently on your team. Is there stuff you're still going to lose on the other side of it, and losing Carroll, and that McDonald's not going to be able to completely make up for him? What Carroll? Sure, there will be. And it'll be a little bit of that. The offset will determine how good this team will be on that counterbalance. But fundamentally, they were on it. You didn't see any blown assignments out there today. You didn't see guys out of position over and over again. You didn't see wide open holes in your zones. And Dune, it was very nice to see. Good Morning Football Breakdown says, yeah, McDonald didn't even use the confusion in this game. Yeah, that is a big hall water mark of what he does. Go back and watch that tape on the Ravens game against the Seahawks. You're watching stack box after stack box, different front after different front after different front. In this game, it was just 4-man front. You had your 1 tech, your 3 tech. You had your guys on the outside rushing off the edge, and that was that. And so, yeah, what you like what you see today. Wait till you see what happens when he starts to really employ the confusion. That's when it starts to get wild. That's when you will not be able to figure out what the hell they're doing. And neither will the other opposition's offense. Yeoman says, Pete's the Seahawks OG. He knows his place. Respect always. Hall of Fame is next for Pete. Absolutely it is. Though I'm not so sure he's done coaching, Yeoman. I still think he's going to come back and give it another rip here. But doesn't mean he can't come back at some point this year and still help us out a little bit until we get to that spot. Hand Grenade says, B, rebranding to the 14th man doesn't work as DK is number 14. Well, we'll have to, maybe we'll do a 13.5 or 12.5 hand grenade or something, you know. We'll have to find maybe an offsuit. Quinn Williams, good vibes. Preseason games make me hate the fact that we have to drop so many people before the season starts. It is the one of the first world problems on a roster that is starting to come together. Rise. Is that you first are trying to find the starters, you get the starters, the young guys, they're in there, they're in their spots, then you want to slot in the backups and get yourself reinforced with the depth, and you go and you get that done. And then you start to reinforce a bit of the depth, and you come to find yourself at the end of preseason, Quinn, and you're like, oh, we got to let this guy go, and he's not going to stay on the practice squad, and that guy's got to go, and he's not going to stay on the practice squad. The good news for me is that we ran into the same problem during our Super Bowl run, and that half the guys you were cutting off your roster at the end were going to NFL squads. And that spoke to the respect that they had of not only the players you had drafted, the talent you had in the room, but the culture you had developed there to develop players and to have them better from when they started out going into your program. Yeah, you're going to probably get more of that again this year. And it speaks to the depth of the team, and it speaks to how good the potential is on that team, that you're letting guys go out the door that can play in the sport, that can play on Sunday, that can be on a roster on NFL Sunday. But you just don't have the room for them. First world problems. Ricardo says, I was really impressed by the double move that Byron pulled off with another D lineman on his almost sack. Looked like Mike Macdonald Ravens play. A little bit of a looping, not so much of a stunt, You sort of have he's playing the 3 tech in kind of one of the rare spots there. So you got the nose tackle. Nose tackle's job then is to get upfield, right? Get upfield. You want to cut this way. You want to basically get right up the football field. And then McDonald, or Byron Murphy, clears around his left shoulder as he's looping around. And then the guy blocking then on the nose tackle doesn't pull off the nose tackle because he's fully engaged into that basically center at that point. He's fully taking that guy on, which then leaves the open path for the looper to come around. It's not a stunt. Where stunts, you have them both, flop like that post snap, right? They run the cross post snap. The first guy's just getting up the field. Murphy loops back around, and you're right. That was a speciality of the Ravens defense in some of the games that they would run last year. Because then it gets fun when you start think about that looper. Now think about 6-man boxes, 6 men up on the line of scrimmage. Think about offensive line and now adjusting its protection to those 6-man lines. Okay. Then you think post snap, you drop 2 off that 6-man box. You end up back in a 4-man box. But now you're running the looper around with the other guy coming up the field. To the center, he's still in the mindset in that moment, let's say, of thinking, I'm getting the blitz here. I need to pick up this guy. I can't be thinking of anybody else here because they're running numbers on us. We've got 6-on-6, hat on hat. So I've got to pick this guy up and lock in on him because this is the way this works. I don't have a freedom to go pick up Murphy as he's sliding past my side then suddenly. So then that's how then Murphy gets home into the regular season and how this translates. Stack front box comes up, protections gets changed, linemen get locked on their assignment, loop one single guy around, create utter chaos. Robert Demores, they were really going after Williams at the end. He held up well. He did. I think Luis Perez, that was in there, the quarterback for the Chargers, he made a fantastic throw, dropped an absolute dime fade ball down the sideline over the top. Now, Williams got beat on that first play by a couple of yards, so he gave the quarterback a good view of where that ball was going to open up to complete. But then Perez was kind of like, hey, that worked. I'm just going to keep working that, and he was doing the dice move on the dance floor too much. He kept going to the dice move. And the next play back, you saw Williams adjust a little bit by making sure he got into the body of the receiver, not as much getting turned back for the ball, locating the ball, knocking it away. He just tucked himself into that receiver's chest, pressed him as much as he could to the sideline to remove as much of the path for a catch to be made. And then you saw Blair on back-to-back plays then come over also and help out, especially on the second throw down into near the end zone. Come over there and help out and make sure the play didn't get completed. But Perez definitely was not trying to do anything too extravagant there. It was pretty simplistic where he was going to go after he completed that first ball. It's just such a good ball. He's like, oh, I got to go back to that again. I could throw that again. Ryan B says, the fact that the third string did well at the goal line was amazing. Amen, it was. Very impressive. Burned Man says, praise the football gods. Praise by Lombardi. Hand Grenade says, well, I turn 29 tomorrow. Y'all have to work. Happy birthday, Hand Grenade. Have yourself a great night. I think Jag Sports Talk, Nicholas was wondering a little bit about your thoughts on Howell and why you were down on Howell from what you saw in person. Yeoman says, great seeing Sam just come out in a workman's attire of simple Hanes white t-shirt. Russ would have never done a presser like that, laughing out loud. That's how I would do if I was a quarterback too. I just come rocking out in a white shirt and everybody be thinking you're like throwing heavy swag out just because you have no swag. Raphael says, was that Kobe Bryant that made the INT? It was, Raphael. Yeah, it was a great play. I believe Kayvon Wallace went low, hit the tight end so hard in his knee. Hopefully the knee's okay. But the ball got dropped then by the tight end, knocked up in the air, and Bryant was Johnny on the spot, got the pick. He also was at another play, almost exactly the same kind of play, not as much a big hit, but a tipped ball. He was right there on that one too. Very, very close. Raphael's got McIntosh better than Charbonnet. I don't know. Charbonnet's pretty good. Nicholas Newton says 245 watching with only 75 likes. Let's get this man to 100 plus likes. Thank you for reminding me of that. I really do appreciate it. And let me just echo Nicholas's sentiments on that. If you could for me, I know it's an annoying thing for me to ask, and I ask it all the time, but whenever you do hit that like button on these kind of videos, live stream videos, it pushes me out on the algorithm. It helps views and all that stuff show up for me. So if you could hit that like button, sub on up if you could as well, like Henry Gerard did. Thank you, Henry, for subbing on up to the channel. I really appreciate you for doing that. Very kind of you. Megan with a $5 donation. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate you for that as well. Thank you for all your support today, too. It was great to be a fan of Seattle sports. M's 4-0 against the Mets and a Hawks win. All great in my world. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, the Mariners, it's a great time for them to start getting hot if they can do so. They can click in right now. You got September in the horizon. Get hot through August. Finish it off in September. Get yourself in the playoffs, and let's see what can happen at that point with your pitching, which will probably suit pretty well to the playoffs if you can get into it. But good day when the Mariners and Seahawks can both win at the same time. Mariners right around there in first place, up there near in that lurking spot. Maybe our Hawks can join them. How great would that be? M's get in the playoffs. Hawks get up into first place. It'd be the year of Seattle. That's what we'd call it, Megan. The year of Seattle. But all great. All great after the results of a game like this today, Megan. And one of those games worthwhile, hopefully, for you to have to get up so early out there down in Australia. Megan with another 5. Thank you, Megan. Appreciate the double dip. Don't know. Says, Pete and USC. USC has asked Pete to come back. He has said no, according to my friends in the media team at SC. Yeah, I don't know if he wants to come back to college. And I think that's where I come back to. I think it may be college he does. And if he goes to college, he's going to have his pick of the litter of where he wants to go. The tough part with going to college now versus back in the old days there, Megan, is that you've got that NCAA thing hanging over your head at all times, and the way that they're very, I don't know, their judicious process is a little bit odd. Let's call it that. And you can see how that definitely had Harbaugh caught up at the end there at Michigan. Seems like he has a similar situation there at Michigan that kind of Carroll had at USC when he was leaving last time. And look, it's not always about wrongdoing happening. The NCAA can be all about its witch hunts as well and that stuff. So just the nature of kind of the beast down there, but it makes it a pain in the ass to want to go back and deal with it too. And then you add on the other part of it, the extra aspect that you would have to deal with now, which is that you got the NIL and the transfer portal and the power that's given players, which may or may not be a good thing, but will make it harder from a coach's perspective to getting your program in the state that you want to get them into. And it's caused a lot of these coaches now that we've seen go to the pro level and leave college because they don't want to deal with that stuff. It's too much extra. It has nothing to do with football. So I think that those could be some preventative things from keeping Pete from getting back to the college level on that, Megan. But I do think, too, there would be a team that might be more open with Pete coming to them as a coach, as a head coaching type, if there's a little bit more of, okay, here's the part of what I've got to do to grow my coaching game as I move into this final run of my coaching career to make sure I can elongate out this into the final chapter. And that would be the sort of flipping and changing schemes on both sides of the ball to a greater degree if he would be open to it. But we'll see. It'll be an interesting part to see how that goes with Pete into the future. And if he does decide to go down that, if there is the team, as we saw with Belichick and Pete this offseason, that necessarily wasn't willing to sign up for that, but maybe there will be next year. It'll be very interesting to monitor and track with him. And hopefully Pete finds the spot that he wants to be in on that. But I wouldn't mind either with him, just long-term guy that truly was a consultant on this program. Your program is better for it if he's in the building and a part of this building, if just in somewhat, even a small way, I would say, in my opinion, Megan. Thank you, though. Appreciate all the donations and the support. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. And Ryan Ball, thank you for hitting that like button. You were awesome, sir. Nick Olson, what made Sam Howell's second half performance not so appealing? The final drive wasn't bad, Nick. So the final drive, he had a couple of throws that was good decision making with it. He had, there was a drop back out to a throw out in the flat. It's a pretty simple throw, pretty easy read and throw. And he just threw it right in the dirt. He wasn't under any pressure or anything. He just got a little jumpy. When you're watching Sam in person, especially, there's times where he hits the back foot of the pocket and his head starts spinning a bit. It's not on every snap. It's not over and over. It's not a broken problem that will forever keep him from ever being a good quarterback. It just stands out when you see it. It's like when you get the computers going, malfunction. You're feeling that like he's hearing that sound on the inside of his head. And you understand when that's happening, what's happening then next. And so it could be him in the middle of a pocket where he's sitting back there. So early on, when it started to go a little bit sideways for him, he's in the pocket, pressure's around him. He's not kind of feeling it. Oh, I got sacked. Well, that was a problem a little bit from Washington, right? That's why I got sacked 50. Part of the reason I got sacked 55 times is you've got to feel the pressure in the pocket. You got to step up from the pressure. You got to work around a little bit. Now, this wasn't the whole game. In those first few drives, he was on it in this type of stuff. So you at least got a little bit of a flash of it early on. But then the lack of recognizing blitzes, the patience up at the line of scrimmage, where it's just rushing to get to the snap, get to the play, rather than even trying to really read the defense and what they were doing. Early on, when he first started out, there's a couple moments there where he's reading the defense. He's making adjustments, some smart adjustments that you can see why he's doing it. He checked into a run at one point smartly. He only got 3 or 4 yards on the run, but it was a smart check based on what the defense was showing him. And so he was taking a little bit more time in those moments to kind of read things and be a processor. And with Sam, he's got to get a bit of the artistry of the position down. It's back to the old quote from McDonald to Hasselbeck: don't play the position like a blacksmith, play it like an artist. You're not there bang, 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 bang. You're not forging steel. You're an artist back there. And have a little bit of that kind of flair in what you're doing back there in the process. And there was a bit more of that flair to him in those first few drives versus the other drives where suddenly it looked like he was getting confused by what he was seeing up front. Suddenly it looked like he wasn't trusting his pre-snap reads. Suddenly the accuracy starts to dip with it. You can kind of start to see with Sam, with the things that go bad to him don't seem to be like an issue in his game, like he's got a hitch to his throw or an elongated delivery. It's more of this leads to that, that leads to that, that leads to that. And then you get the bad version of Sam Howell. And you just got to keep him from that downward spiral spot that he can sometimes run into. And if you can, as he did in those few drives, you can get a pretty proficient quarterback. Italian Knight, Pete should be coaching high school football in Florida, enjoying retirement. Not sure if he has a ring at the high school level yet. Maybe so. Maybe so. I do know there's just that passion. I've already heard reports with that I think we're going to see him trying to push back out on there and see what he can do again next year. Ryan Ball, it's crazy. The Mariners are not falling apart already. Not quite. They're holding in there. And once we get Julio fully strong and rolling here, maybe they can find that footing. HB says, I liked what I saw from Kayvon Wallace. Our safety room looks like it could be a serious problem for once. Indeed, it does. Another safety group room that looks like it might be stronger on the front end than it's been in recent years. And then also has the depth that maybe it hasn't had as much of in recent years. But it's also going to be a hell of a fight there, HB, for those back end 2 safeties on the roster. That's what you tend to carry is 4 total. You know that Julian Love, you know that Rayshon Jenkins are going to be your 2 starters. I think Kayvon Wallace, like you say, is pretty well set there as at least the number 3. So who's number 4 then? It's kind of a battling it out there, and it looks like Kobe Bryant, with his versatility pick today, been pretty good in training camp. I haven't heard much out of, I think Jarek Reed's still on the PUP. So you have a place here where maybe these will be your 4 safeties, and they look a little bit stronger than they have been recently. Mike M. Great to see football back. Indeed, Mike, it is. Raphael says, Sam Howell does not have my vote for the Seahawks quarterback, but Daniel Jones could be if the GMN were to release him next year. Oof. I think I'd go for Sam Howell over Daniel Jones. I could be wrong on that one, but I don't know. Daniel would freak me out as a quarterback. I can't trust that guy. Marco, a new season, a new reality, but here we are as always. Hello, everybody from Italy again. It's Marco Silveri. What's up, Marco? Looking forward for some great games. Go Hawks. Well, go Hawks, Marco. Thank you as a member of the channel. Long-time member of the channel at that. I appreciate that. It's good to see you in the house. Welcome back. We're back like we never left. DVN says UW needs Pete, man. He's been spending some time there. I doubt it, but man, would be nice. Yeah, you never know. And maybe it's easy. He wants to just be in that consultation role and help out in that fashion. If he doesn't have the head job available that he wants, he doesn't want to go back to the college level. It's not the worst of ways to bounce between UW and Seattle on that and still be a part of the action, if you were. Jamarcus White, if any team is watching Seahawks preseason games to get a feel for McDonald, they're going to get to the regular season and be like, we saw this exact look in preseason only for it to be a completely different coverage. Do you think that's why McDonald didn't mix it up any coverages, or do you think we'll see more from him in the next few games? Great question, Jamarcus, because here's what I take actually as a conclusion from it, from what I saw in this, and that is that confidence. I think that Mike Macdonald, to not be trying to throw this stuff out there as much here in this game and throw the stack boxes, I think it speaks to Jamarcus. Tell me if you're wrong on this, or if you think I'm wrong on this, that it's to the confidence he has that they're understanding that intricate stuff. It's working in practice. That stuff's all flowing just fine. It'll be fine come day one. Meaning Jamarcus kind of, the only reason I would show something like that in preseason is because I got to work out the kinks, iron out the bumps, and I know that there's going to be mistakes, and those mistakes need to happen in the preseason because I damn well don't want them to happen in the regular season. But if I'm not seeing those mistakes or bumps in training camp on the practice field, then I am going to go to what is going to be technically a coach's archetypal position on this type of thing, which is to say, my guys know the stuff. There's no reason for me to show it to you in the preseason. These games don't count. And there's nothing further for them to learn better by doing it here because they've got the P's and Q's of it. They're dotting the I's, they're crossing the T's. They're doing the work in the classroom. And so this speaks to me in that he has that confidence in doing that. I don't think it means that, well, now you're going to see it in game 2 or game 3 of preseason. And in fact, I would make more of a measure of a guess that you're probably going to see more of these 4-man fronts and just keep it vanilla throughout the preseason at this point from his perspective, because I think he has a lot of confidence in what he's bringing to play, especially with his talent level come day one. You let me know, Jamarcus. I'd be interested to hear where you might stand on that one. I think that'd be why I think, because it was a shocker to me, Jamarcus, I guess I'd say, that you didn't see more from them in some of the complication, in some of the stack boxes, in some of the games, because you did see it on the Chargers side. The Chargers did all of that stuff and more. I mean, the Chargers went overboard defensively in the amount of stack fronts and pressure fronts that they were trying to show on the other side of it. It was like they were ironing out kinks. Eric for real says Blair's reach on that tip pass was impressive. It was. And good reactions there by Blair, too, recognizing the quarterback was starting to get fixated over there to that right side. He kept getting closer and closer on those back-to-back plays to that throw. It was like the first throw over the top, he's a little bit late. Second throw, he's right there. Third throw, he's knocking it away. So you continue to be smart player coming along. And Blair is a guy that fits to this defense really well. Really well. In the prior defense, it would have been maybe a little bit more of asking him to play more of the in-the-box kind of role. This is a little bit more of you'll be back into that too-high shell, and we'll have you do a variety of things. And that might fit to Blair a little bit better. He's another guy that is in this mix on that safety role. I'd forgotten about him there a second ago, Eric. And he's right there in this mix too, I think. Hand says Kobe got an INT and the refs didn't call it this time. Yeah, that rookie year, I think he had 5-6 forced fumbles, and then he had like 2 or 3 interceptions, and they all got called back for a penalty that all the penalties had nothing to do with him. It was somebody else having something go on. Hawkaholic says, let's have a go. Hell of a game tonight. Hell of a game, Hawkaholic. Hell of a game. That's a great start, huh? Red Ball, Brandon, do you have a thought on why McDonald wasn't able to get a Super Bowl with the Ravens? Was it their offense? McDonald failing under pressure? Good question. The first season that Mike Macdonald was there and they made the playoffs, the Ravens were limp dicking the contract with Lamar Jackson. And so Lamar Jackson countered back to the limp dicking by pulling the rug out from under them right around playoff time. Essentially going, oh, you're not going to play me? I've got this little injury thing here. I'm not going to risk it getting more serious. I won't play. Quarterback don't play. Don't matter how good you are at that point. If you ain't got Lamar and at quarterback on that team, you weren't going to go out there and make any hay in the playoffs. That was that first year that McDonald came in there. Last year, we get to the Chiefs game. Chiefs start out in that game with an opening drive where they score a touchdown, and it's largely on the back of check down, and then 2 throws to Kelsey, which is just goat on goat. It's just that's Mahomes throwing to Kelsey and 2 plays where they're better than the defense, but they've done that to a lot of defenses. That happens. It's not going to happen through the whole course of the game. But as you went through the rest of that game, they got some early points to KC, but then the Ravens shut down that offense. And what happened on the other side of it was, though Lamar was healthy this year, the Chiefs understood how to attack Lamar. And they understood, make Lamar beat you pushing the ball down the field. He's not accurate enough down the field to hit those throws. And if you force him to throw 4, 5, 6, 9 route throws over the course of a game, chances are he might complete maybe one of those at best. And he might just miss on all of them. And that's basically what they did. They took away his legs. They took away the short passing game that he liked to rely on and said, okay, hit him down the field. Hit him outside the numbers down the field. And Lamar wasn't able to do it. And that's the part of Lamar's game that he's got to improve. And if he does improve the ability to push that ball down the field in that way, I don't know if he can at this point in his career, because it's kind of something you probably have by this point. You have it or don't. But if he does, he becomes unstoppable. But if he doesn't, you can stop him if you can take away those other things from him. It's easier said than done to take away his legs. It's easier said than done to take away their ground game. It's easier said than done to take away their short passing attack. But if you can do those things and force him into trying to just push it up deep on you at that point, Ryan, then I think you force them into that box a bit. Hawks were able to do a little bit of this with the Ravens in the game they played him. There's about 4 throws in that game the same way where he's trying to put it over the top because the Hawks defense was trying to force things down a bit. They, of course, just gave up too many yards in the ground game, and those other items I said that are hard to take away, we weren't able to take away last year. But we were able to push a little bit of this even in our matchup with them too, to a degree on that. Iverson says, when I hear a name like Easton Stick or a name like Mike Sweeney, my first reaction is Easton what? Or Mike what? I know I can be juvenile sometimes, but it's kind of funny. No, it does seem like fake names. Easton Stick. You know, you just picturing a mother holding baby. We'll call him Easton. Must be a family name. Yeoman says, I always say the same thing. I predict the Seahawks go undefeated. A 12 never predicts a loss. Let's go. DBN says Cardinals face us twice in 3 weeks. We may be their gauntlet. We might just. Italian Night, easy money on the 7 over on the 7.5. I certainly think today. I don't know if that 7.5 number is going to stay. I think it's going to get to 8 real quick. Nick Olson, how well of a game do you think Ryan Grubb called? What would you rate it out of 10? 8? 8 out of 10, I guess. I think he called a really good game. I don't think that there was any spot that, that was problematic. I think I would have liked to have seen maybe adjustment at some point or another to recognizing a little bit of the blitz concepts that were coming downhill. Maybe they were trying this at points and times and it just the execution didn't hit right. There's some little things to clean up, but the ground game looked good. The attack overall was as diversified as we would expect. You saw them working in the screen game as a common element of the passing attack, not as this thing that you eventually get to, but that, as we saw with UW, once every 8 plays, you're getting some kind of screen. You got that tonight as well. So he fit the form and the blueprint for how he wants to call a game for the most part. I think, and inhibited a little bit by it being preseason and the stack boxes and blitzes he was facing versus how much you prepare for that coming into a game like this versus how much you'll prepare for it in the regular season. But a strong 8, a B plus, maybe even like an 86.5-ish or something, you know. Chad Alpha says it's the year the M's win the World Series, the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, and the Sonics announce their return. That would be insane. That would be insane. Seahawks Gaming says Bubble Wrap, Woolen, Murphy, and Mafi. I've seen enough. I'm with you, man. I'm good. I'm glad they got Murphy off the field pretty quickly, too. Like, he's an impact. McDonald's like, all right, he's good. No. I know we said 30 snaps. It feels more like 12 snaps to me right now. Like, it was 30 snaps on Wednesday, but now Saturday, like, as I'm here in the stadium in the moment, it feels more like 11 snaps is enough. You know? He looks... He got his work in that. He did more in those, you know. I'm with you, man. I'm with you on that. I'm good on all those guys. They're ready to go. Megan says, I've had some bad news, so I'm heading out Hawks Nest. We'll talk soon. Ooh, I'm sorry to hear that, Megan. I hope not too bad news. Hang in there. We'll talk to you soon. Jamarcus White, I know we touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but what a phenomenal game from John Radigan and our linebackers in general. They did great. John led the way in tackles in this game, and I not only did he wasn't catching those tackles 5 yards down the football field. He was at times meeting those tackles and the line of scrimmage, you know, as the running backs hitting the hole. And they didn't get much to accomplish today on the ground to the Chargers. 18 carries, 77 yards, 4.3 yard per carry average. No longer than the 16-yard run was the longest they got. And I think he was a big part of what helped to make that happen there. And Tyrese Knight, rookie, starting his first, it's not starting his first game, but playing in his first game as a pro. Kid looked good out there. He as well made some plays, both of them strong tacklers, no issues in that part, no broken tackles. But Radigan looked like a guy who's coming into now what is, I think, his third season, who's starting to kind of recognize things and instinctively know when he can jump on top of them a little bit. And it's good to see, because this is the depth that we desperately need right now for the team with these two guys as we go into the season with our frontline starters, because it's the question marks, and one of the few question mark spots on this roster as it currently stands, as far as at least how the depth will shake out. They were good, man. Real good. And if you did catch them in coverage, if they gave up a catch, they weren't 3 yards away and sliding off the tackle. They brought the guy right to the ground. Oh, John coming with a big donation. John Robinson. Thank you for the $50 donation. I appreciate you for that, John. Welcome on in the house, brother. Coming in and talk about announcing your presence with authority. Thank you for the $50 dono drop, bro. It was a great game. Great start to a new era. Let's play some NCAA after. Laughing out loud. I'm down to play some NCAA, man. I've been loving the hell out of my game. I got my first national title. Felt good. It took me some years. Okay. I'm not going to lie. I had to get to 2028 before I finally got my national title. Had to get the draft classes right. It was brutal there, John. It was brutal. It was brutal. But I'm slowly getting in there now. Slowly finding my footing now, man. But great game, bro. And man, thank you for the $50 donation. You're very, very kind on that. Very kind on that. This is what helps me do what I do, folks. Is folks like John and yourselves that have all donated on the chat today. This is what allows me to be able to do this full time. I really thank you so much from my heart. And yeah, man, we'll get it. I saw a couple of your texts came through there, John. So I was just prepping for the show as your texts were coming through. But I will hit you up once I'm offline, man. We'll go get it. Go get it. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the $50 dono. Glad you got the game. You're going to like it. Definitely an improvement over where Madden's been in recent years, in my opinion. Definitely an improvement. And I'm not fully addicted, but I sure am enjoying the hell of my time on it. That's for sure. Thank you, John. Good to see you in the chat too tonight, brother. Y2K with the $2 dono. Any offensive line or defensive line takeaways? I wasn't able to watch. Sorry to hear that, Y2K. I think offensive line becomes a bit harder for me to pinned down. McClendon Curtis was kind of holding on for dear life at right tackle. He's a guard. And you were trying to protect things out there. Stone had some moments where he's okay in pass protection, doesn't do a lot in the run game. It's kind of what you expect from him. Olu, I think, had more kind of bad than good overall in this game. I'm going to reckon to guess that he's not going to be well graded by PFF, and had one block that he blew right down by the goal line. Part of that fourth down stop the Chargers were able to get on the Seahawks was a big part of him. I think Haynes got a little bit of movement on the line in the run game and held up pretty good in pass protection. So I don't think he was lighting it up, but he was solid on that side of it. The defensive line's a little bit more notable, I think, as far as guys that stood out. Derek Hall, causing pressure, looking strong, good against the run. I think he had like 6 tackles in this game. Also had a sack. Sack was really caused by Byron Murphy, who forced the whole action to happen on that play. Byron also looked good on a couple of other plays, created pressure on one play, had a tackle for loss in the ground game where he just blew up the guard in the backfield and then dumped the back. Just completely dominant looking play. Mike Morris was used all over that line of scrimmage, and wherever he was used, he made an impact, including you had Mike Morris in coverage at one point in this game, knocking a ball away in coverage, flipping his hips like a defensive back at 6'6" tall. So he looking good as well out there. Uchenna was in for a short period, Boye in there for a short period, but they made their presence felt as well. They were active in both, I think, the run and the pass. And Sharif, this back-end roster kid, came in and provided some pressure at the end. He had like 3 straight pressures, one of them a sack at the end of the game, which was, I thought, pretty notable from him. Miles Adams coming in here, trying to make this roster, coming into his 3rd, 4th year here. He was able to make some plays back there and wreak some havoc from his side of it. So that'd be the main notable guys that stood out to me on the defensive line. Everybody was kind of good all the way throughout. That's the thing that does stand out to me, Y2K, is that you look at it and go, boy, everybody was solid throughout the course of this matchup today, man. You know, like, let's go, you know. At least on the defensive line. Starter to 5th end guy. Everybody was causing some damage. And Morris looks like he's got a place on this team. He's fitting into a spot where you can see he's going to make this team, and he'll have a role being kicked all around that defensive line a little bit. Fun to watch. Got a lot of hardware in his body. He's got a shoulder wrap. He's got the J.J. Watt arm thing like going on. Poor guy's probably dealing with some stuff too, it seems like. But, you know, still making some plays. He looks like a player. John, thank you again, man, for that $50 dono drop. Again, I'll hit you up too once I'm off stream. I'll hit you up and we'll figure it out, man. We'll get something on the NCAA. I'm down. Loving that. Garth says Pete Carroll coached Joe Montana at the Citadel, right? Yeoman? Did he? I didn't know that. Yeah, Gaming says McDonald's defense so good he's making Wallace and Bryant look like Cam and Earl. John says so diabolical that Harbaugh was blitzing in the preseason so much. They kept cranking it up. It was right out the gate. They showed it a little bit early on first quarter. And then, and I don't know if it was, they were like secretly trying to kind of like win the game. And so we're just going to stifle the offense by overrunning their protections because they're not going to prepare for this stuff. But it stood out and you go, geez, really guys? You showing the whole playbook in the preseason? That hold nothing back? Okay. Rockman Drums. The thing I noticed with the defense is they were disciplined and played like a unit. No lone wolves out there, which is a great sign. They were indeed seemingly together on a string at times in the way they were flowing, working together. And yeah, that stood out. And this is part of how you keep a team under 200 yards is that you have everybody on the tight details, nothing loosey-goosey. And because it's easy to get over 200 yards. It's one broken play and, you know, you got an 80-yard gain to tap onto what her stats you did through the game, but they never let anything be easily had. Every play today from that Chargers offense, it felt tough. Every play felt tough. Every completion felt tough. Everything felt contested or close to being incomplete or knocked away. And there was just nothing that stood out that was just easy to be had in this defense, especially for a defense that was running such a vanilla scheme. This McDonald guy, he kind of knows his way around things. Johnson's is like that friend that's better than you at Madden by far, and he just sends unblockable blitzes at you all game. Yes. I don't think Harbaugh wanted McDonald to take him down. I don't think the master wanted the mentor to solve him in that way. Especially when he saw those Seahawks colors. You know, it probably triggered something in Harbaugh. And he was like, Minter, blitz him. And Minter's like, Coach, it's preseason. We don't need to be blitzing him. Well, I said blitz him. It's the Seahawks, damn it. This is for the conference title. No, it's preseason, Coach. No, I'm telling you right now, you blitz him and you blitz him good. You know, Harbaugh just getting super intense on the mic. Nicholas, you had now, ma'am? Have yourself a good one, bro. Yeoman's a member in here, Garth. Yeoman's good people. Yeoman's good people, man. Nicholas, you have yourself a great night, man. Go Hawks. Or I guess that's Space on the way out. Have a good night, Space. Johnson's got to be so awesome to find out Lamar Jackson. You would see a reclitification of the 12s. Probably. They'd love watching it, man. Rockman says Grubb did good without giving up our regular season stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, he was solid. Yeoman says there'll be some bloodletting at our joint practices this week. We got to prepare ourselves. I mean, I'm walking this practice knowing it's kind of a necessary, like going to the dentist, Yeoman. You don't want to do it. You'd prefer to just avoid it. But your teeth are going to come out healthier on the other side by going through it. It's going to be painful. You're going to bleed a little bit. We'll be better for it on the other side of it. There's no major injuries, please. Ryan, thanks, Brandon. I just thought that if Ravens had a run game like we did with Marshawn, Mike would have had a Super Bowl ring with the Ravens. Do you agree? I certainly think if they had a difference-making running back like Marshawn back there, that it does help them out. And Ryan, to your point, I mean, maybe this is a little bit of how you end up at the spot of Derrick Henry ending up in Baltimore this next coming season, is that they see it the same way you're talking about, Ryan, where we like what we got from the running back positions recently, but it's not dominant from that position. It's Gus Edwards kind of guys, decent running backs, but not difference makers. Let's get him a difference maker and pair that together with him. And I do indeed believe that that does take you better than you'd been prior. You know, that you could, if you're making an argument between getting Lamar a real great number 2 or a difference-making running back, that you could say it's better for him to have the difference-making running back than the number 2. The thing I'll say with this, though, is that I always do have a belief that if a defense knows that you can't push a ball down the football field, and it's one of the reasons I say when I look at quarterback positions, the two biggest places that I want to look for in my evaluation first and foremost, not that it's the only things, but these are the two spots I really glom onto, are arm strength and processing. And arm strength, because if you don't have arm strength to make all the NFL throws in the book, an NFL defense will then take away what you do well. And they will force you into your limitations, and you don't have an answer for those limitations. If I have a quarterback that can't push the ball down the field accurately, even if he has the arm strength, then you can always force him a little bit into the corner and neutralize him a little bit if you have a good enough defense to do so, if you have the talent. That's the easier said than done thing. Not all teams have the talent to do that. But at the same point in time, this is a little bit why Lamar's style of play kind of runs into a bit of a roadblock when you get into the playoffs. Because those teams are good enough defensively to take away what he wants to do good, to force him into that corner. And so that's where I go, man, you can get the running back. They can still bring down the 8th man in the box, and they can still just commit to stopping your run, and they can put the corners in press and tell the corners in press to be active in the run game. And if your quarterback can't hit that 9 route 50 yards down the field somewhat accurately, so it feels like to me you can only go so far in the back of that at that point in time, LC Williams, Yobi, 12 football is back. Defense looks great. Offense is crisp. This is our year. Some say it's only preseason, but this is where the journey begins. Go Hawks. Go Hawks, LC. And I love it, man. The defense definitely looked back in a big-time way. And I don't know if this kind of preseason performance in some of the numbers that come out of this, I'm not talking about the 3 points given up. I'm less enamored with that. I'm talking about keeping them under 200 yards in a preseason game, having them at 0 for 8 to start the game on third downs, things, tackling, discipline, things that have been an issue in many recent years here and that have held back this defense in many recent years. Looked night and day difference in this game. It's preseason. It's just the first start. Doesn't mean a whole lot necessarily in the grand scheme of things, but it's a very encouraging opening chapter here to the Mike Macdonald book. Matthew Phillips, have a good feeling about Knight. I do too, man. I do too. I wasn't huge on him when we picked him. I did try to kind of put a bit of a caveat at that time that some of that's a bit based on the fact that I just didn't have a lot of tape with him out of UTEP to look over. I didn't have the access to like all of the UTEP tape. But he looks the part. He's got the length. He's got the size. And seems pretty quick, pretty fast. Instinctively in this game, it was good to see him on it because that was a little place I'd questioned a little bit with him at UTEP. But he looked on it in this game. He was good. Solid. Sonics will be back, Yeoman. 360 bets, late, but it seemed to be a really good defensive game. Overall feelings, anything really stand out to you? Just how quickly the defense is acclimated to McDonald. I mean, they've already seemingly taken on the designs of what he wants to accomplish out there, and the defense played this good with a vanilla sort of outlook and approach in this game. They weren't doing this where they were showing you a lot of stuff, which I was anticipating 360 bets is that you were going to see a lot more from the defense as far as bells and whistles go. But it was 4-man fronts. It was zone coverages a lot of times as we got into the depths of the game. And it's telling that you were able to still be as stifling as you were playing that kind of vanilla game plan. So defense definitely ruled the day here, was definitely the most impressive part. Offense was solid, and certainly they kept things close to the vest from their side of it here on the other side of it too. And you have Sam Howell as a backup. He did better than he's been doing in training camp, but it was still some ups and downs with him. Walker, some ups and downs there as well. Good in the run game. Everything was pretty much solid on that side of the ball. Nothing really stood out that you go, well, that was bad. That was bad. But the defense was just really good in this game. And again, I guess that's the most impressive part to me, 360s. I would have thought you're going to see the 6-man fronts from the start. You're going to see more of those stack boxes at least. Maybe you don't blitz a lot. Maybe you're just bringing the stack fronts and dropping into the 4-man fronts a lot, which is what McDonald will do a lot of when we get to regular games. But you weren't even seeing any of the stack fronts. He was just, I'm not going to show you anything, and my defense is still going to play lights out. That's pretty crazy. Raphael says Jim Harbaugh's press conferences are rough. He gets in his feelings. He does. Iverson says if the offensive line holds up this year, this team will make the playoffs. But I fear that Abraham Lucas's knee might prematurely end his career. I hope I'm wrong. Team's being very careful with his knee, and we heard about rumors of there being chronic associations with the knee and that there's maybe something there that might be long-term. We'll see. And they're being careful to your point on that. I do agree with you in that I think the O-line will be better this year. If we're talking about getting to a contending state this year, truly this year, early, maybe a year earlier than many people think we can, I think you're doing it on the back of Abraham Lucas playing a majority of the football games. And that's really as much as the only path for that to occur, because he can help then to take a unit along with the other additions, the addition made in Connor Williams and the interior, hopefully getting a little bit better on the inside with that it can actually take this thing that's been glaring weakness on the team for a few years now and bring it up to, if not a strength, a bit better than average. And I think that he gives them that upside if he's out there. But can he be out there? Is he ready to hold up? We'll have to see on that. William Asapaco says, good night all and go Hawks. Good night and go Hawks, my man. Thank you for that. Appreciate you watching tonight. Have a good one. Rob's George Holani was looking real good out there running and throwing blocks. Said he won't make the top 3, though. Sad he won't make the top 3, though. It is a little sad. I think the nice part, though, is that you do carry 4 backs. So, though he's not necessarily going to be cracking the top 3, he is going to be in that 4th role. And the thing about this that I'm not wanting to see, but has been a reality of life at the running back position for Seattle for a few years now, is that you do tend to call upon the 3rd and 4th running back on your roster quite a bit when it comes to the regular season. Hopefully it's not the case, and we got Walker and Charbonnet running full steam, and these guys are barely able to be used because you're so strong at the position at the front. But if you have to call upon them, I think your 3rd and 4th running back right now has the makings and lookings of being stronger than it has been in many, many recent years. This might be the strongest 1 through 4 running back room the Seahawks have ever had in their history. Alcoholic, I know it's only the first preseason game, but the defensive line, offensive line look very solid. Hope they maintain this level of intensity. I as well. And we were going up against a team that's not aiming to be a finesse team. Harbaugh's trying to create that same kind of tough team that's going to win at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball that we are. So that's a team that is a test in that way coming out. You didn't have Joey Bosa and you didn't have Khalil Mack. You know, they were resting some of their guys, but that is what they're trying to establish is their culture there as well. So a challenge. Mike Smith, what do I think about Derek Hall's day? I think Derek Hall was really good today. Down the line. 5 tackles, 1 sack, a tackle for loss, an additional quarterback hit. So he, at the very least, Mike did fill up the stat chart. But he also supplied pressure. He was good and stout in the running game. He was in on a couple of those tackles. He earned those tackles. They weren't cheap. He was in the mix of things on those plays. And he wasn't catching those tackles down the field. They were at the line of scrimmage and dragged down for a yard or 2 gain. And he was part of that. And that's an important part because I expected a little bit of maybe his lack of his pass rush last year, but the lack of his run defense at times was a little dissuading because that's really something you thought for sure you were going to get from him with Auburn, bare minimum. So that's reestablished itself a little bit in this game, which was good to see. He forced a sack where he forced the quarterback up, and I believe it was Sharif got the sack on the play, but it was really driven by him just bull rushing up into the tackle and pushing him back. Byron Murphy had a sack where he had his hands on the quarterback and forced him into Derek Hall's arms. Hall was able to take him down. That's the way Hall got the sack. So it was really more on the back of Murphy's play that he got the sack. But Hall was active. His power was showing up out there. He had a couple of pressures in there. So overall, good game by Hall. You saw both them strong against the run, strong against the pass, and making a bit of impact in both of those sides of it. So much like I'd say with the defense, with the Hall in this, I'd say it's a very encouraging first step this year as he turns this over into year 2. And we hope to really see, much like we got with Boye Mafe into year 2, you get to really feel and see why this team saw these guys as 2nd-round picks. John Robinson says, the first rule of law of the 48 laws of power, never outshine the master. There we go. That's Mike Macdonald, John. He's breaking all the rules. He's breaking all the rules. He doesn't play by the rules. JL says, where was Grubb today? In the booth or on the field? I do believe he's up in the booth, JL. We didn't get a Grubb shot. We got no Grubb shots. But I do think he's up there. Power Code, what a game today. B, Murphy looks like a beast. He does look like a beast. I don't think he got a lot of snaps. We're going to see, I think, with the PFF stuff that the snap count's going to be pretty restricted on Murphy at the end of the day. But he made the most of the snaps that he was out there. And it took the Chargers about 22 seconds to realize they better double Murphy every effing snap that he is out there. Because the first time that they didn't, he threw the guard back 3 yards in the backfield and got a tackle for loss. So notable, too, that even in, whether it was against the run or in pass protection, Murphy was getting those double teams saddled up to him pretty quickly at that point. But he looked really good. Real good. Jeffrey Ball, new staff looks like we are well on their way to building a contender again. Well said, Jeffrey. That's what I saw, too, from today. It ain't a final conclusion or to draw like, oh, this year's our year, but you look like you're on the right road. You can see how a plan of this can come together in the future in the way that this was set out from today. And again, not a final conclusion, not drawing anything distinction-wise from this team and what they're going to be, but just, it isn't failure. It isn't, oh, that looked rough. It wasn't avert your eyes. This will get better down the road. It was, ooh, whoa. It was Keanu Reeves and Matrix. Whoa. Isaac Lipnick, thank you for that $12 donation. A member of the channel, longtime supporter of the channel as well. Isaac, thank you, man, for all your support of the channel. I really appreciate it, brother. Says, what if this McDonald kid turns out to be a pretty good at this whole football coach thing? Here's hoping, 12s. That was fun. Let's have it go, Hawks. Hey, the thing that was surprising to me in speaking to people and hearing people talk about Mike Macdonald, who were people that would be out around the league and connected to the league and aware of the coaches out and around there and the reputations around these coaches and just kind of connected in is the best way to put this. And these are people without biases for the Seahawks situation that have no dog in the fight of the Seahawks being good or bad. But the thing that stood out about the way that these people talked about Mike Macdonald universally was the lack of doubt, the lack of hedging their bets, Isaac, the lack of, he should, but he is so young. Well, I think he's brilliant, but once you got to get him outside the Harbaugh umbrella to really see for sure. You didn't hear anybody sort of hedging their bets in the way they spoke about him. It was them saying, this guy is going to be that guy. This guy is the Sean McVay of the offensive side of the ball. This is the next in that next crew of young coaches coming up that's going to take this thing over and raise this thing to the next heights in the NFL and where it's going to go. That he is a trendsetter. He is on that cutting edge. And I think you see a bit of a glimpse of that today for why that is, but you're starting to understand for why that is now. You're starting to understand why so many of these people that would normally hedge their bets in that moment and say, yeah, but if this, he can be this as long as that. It should go well like this, but only if this happens. And instead of that, they go, no, he's going to be great. No, he is going to be great. And that's what you've heard universally on this. And again, I'm not speaking to local Seahawk fans. I'm not speaking to local people like me talking. I'm talking about more from the national perspective in the way that they spoke about this guy. And we might just have that, Isaac. It might just be the reality of our situation, and that would be a beautiful thing. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Thank you, man. I appreciate your support and donations. Garth Knight with a $5. Thank you, Garth. Says, I called out Yeoman. I was wrong. I feel I need to turn in my badge in 9mm till the regular season, like the Starsky and Hutch episode. Hey, Orange Cat. We need more Orange Cat in this episode. Pumpkin says hi. You forgive Garth? You forgive him? He forgives him. All forgiven, Garth. All forgiven. I had you out of the shot. How'd I have you out of the shot? You're the star here. I just fed her salmon before the show, so some wet salmon food. So she is very close to food coma. Very purry and very, very close to food coma. No, Garth, you keep your badge. You keep your 9mm. We all got our moments. You know what I mean? Thank you, brother. I appreciate the $5. Cameron has been celebrating 23 months as a Hawks Nest member. Thank you for that. It was nice to see our defense actually tackle. I've noted it. It's going to be something that's going to stand out to me in looking at the tape because I'm going to be actually really looking for it on the tape when I go back and check out the All-22, Cameron. And that is how you do tackle, or how many tackles were actually lost. Because I didn't count one missed tackle in this game. One point where you had a guy out in the open field one-on-one to make a tackle, and he did not bring that guy to the ground. I think to a man, everybody got the guy down when the opportunity was presented to do so. And startling, because there were so many plays last year where I could go through a play and slow motion it, and I could go 1, 2, 3, 4 guys, one play, missing their tackles, all with real, all just right there to make the play, heads up, right in front of them, no extra guy coming in and doing anything, both of their arms readily available to wrap the guy up, and he just slips right on through. Not a one guy, not a two guy, 4 guys on a one play. And tonight you might have had a whole game where you didn't have one of those missed tackles. It really stood out to me too, Cameron. And for the difference on that to be so much like with them getting the Chargers off the field on 3rd down, for it to be so different from where it's been is a big thing that stands out in this game. Is it a preseason game? Yeah. But for the first preseason game to turn those two things on their ears that have been such issues for this team and going back multiple years at that, very interesting to see. And again, to come back to maybe the word of the night, encouraging to see. Thank you again, Isaac, Garth, Cameron. Appreciate y'all. And Power Goes is one thing I liked about the offense were those quick passes to the flat to guys like Shenault, McIntosh that went for 10-plus yard gains. That type of swift offense can reduce the mental burden for the quarterback. 100%. You have 35 throws for a quarterback over the course of the game. One of the idealized points of your philosophy as an offensive coordinator should be, how many quick, easily scripted throws can I bake within this offensive structure for this quarterback? How many times can I give him a throw where I'm not making him sit back there and hold the ball in the pocket and process through and go through reads and hit a high-level throw deep down the field? Yes, you're always going to have those throws mixed into your play calls, but how can I also mix in the easy stuff for him? And you're right. You saw a lot of that today. You saw a lot of why they were able at the University of Washington with Michael Penix to keep him so clean. Oftentimes not because simply, you're getting great pass protection across the board, but because you're working to get the ball quickly out of the quarterback's hand. Hike, balls out. Hike, balls out. There's never that opportunity for the defense to have any chance to come back there and affect the quarterback at that point. And you're right. I saw the same type of thing from them in Power. Just take the easy plays when they're there. Take the free money when it's sitting there on the table. And that is, especially then those out routes. They would get those out routes and they get off coverage and they'd see they could feel the corner drop into cover 3 depth, run the out route off of it. It's a free 8-yard play for you all day. And meanwhile, the quarterback gets it right out of his hands. You get him in rhythm. So those kind of throws also to help to get the QB in now, those rhythm throws, where now when you need him to actually push the ball down the field, they're feeling good. They're feeling in the flow of things. Hand grenade, I like the long drives we did. That's only going to help our defense not play 200 games a season. It definitely does help when you get some consistency and the chains moving. And you're right. You can see how these two things work together, and especially how this fits over the course of a game when we talk about winning a game in the first quarter through the fourth quarter and how you can win a game in the first, second, third quarter. Well, if I've got a defense that's getting 3 and outs and I've got an offense that's living on the football field as far as time of possession, I'm wearing a defense out. I'm keeping my defense fresh. So if it does come down to the end, if it does come down to make or break, be it on either side of the ball at that point, I've got the offense that's got a defense wore down, and I got a defense that's fresh enough to go get that stop. Yeah. Sentai, how you doing, Donnie? This is Brandon All. Hope everyone's well. Sorry I'm late. I'm working on my recreation of John Tesla's iconic round ball rock. I hear that's coming back to the NBA this year, which is good because it is iconic. Corey, Bodie in Point Break or Dalton in Roadhouse? Who's the coolest character? I go with Dalton for me because Bodie doesn't really care. Like, Bodie's just living for himself. You know what I mean? Dalton's got some conscience. Plus, Dalton knows karate. Karate. Ryan, Brandon, you're making me feel better about having McDonald as our head coach. Do you think John Schneider, Gino, and K9 could be the key to getting McDonald a ring? Well, I think to your point on the question, I think at the heart of your question is, he's going to hold up his end of the bargain. Is this defense going to get to a place of being top 10, top 5 this season? I don't know. Long term, I think he gets you there. By year 2, if it's not there this year, I think he gets you to that spot. He takes care of his end of that bargain. And because you have the offense stacked up as good as they are as deep and as strong, there's little reason to believe that this offense won't be as equally proficient on the other side of it. And so when you say, does the Seahawks offense as it's being put together have more to be able to bring to the table than a Ravens offense led by Lamar Jackson when you get into the playoffs? If you get a Geno Smith, let's say, into the playoffs? Yes, I do believe that they are. I do believe that they are. It's a matter of just the timing of how long it does take to get everything onboarded and fully fluid. It's one thing to know it. It's another thing to know it backwards and forwards, to know it like the back of your hand. But who's to say that process can't be quickened? Who's to say the process can't be quickened by a guy who has shown two times over in his last two stops, an ability to get his system onboarded extremely quickly? How long did it take at Michigan? How long did it take at Baltimore for him to come in there and get those defenses providing that impact? Not long. Isaac says, is it also the strongest wide receiver room 1 through 4 we've ever had? Well, it all depends on how you want to really measure up, I think, the 2013 season. Because technically speaking, you start out that season, you've got Sidney Rice, Percy Harvin, Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate. But with that said, is this current crop better than that crop? Yeah, probably. Probably. Somewhat depends on our trust in Bobo. But it's definitely got an argument to be made, at least, Isaac. Isaac says, Bobro's in the house. What's up, old school? Old school says, Moss Bobro. SC Wolverines, what's up, Hawks Nest? Thanks for the coverage. Hey, my pleasure, man. I'm a pig in mud at this time of year. I'm in my comfort zone. Matthew says, I feel like my prediction that our defense will look really good very quickly is starting to look more justified. Boy, is it ever. Little proof that it wasn't justified on that side of it, Matthew. And I mean, not what we would expect in the first bit of action with a new defense like this. Not what we expect with a first-time head coach. So it is impressive at that. And it does, you're right, just add more fuel to the fire of thinking that this thing can come together much faster. You are onboarding a whole new scheme. But within onboarding a whole new scheme, you're also onboarding that which is those easy advantages to be rectified. And what I mean by that is just simply implement them. Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen are some of the two best man coverage corners in the entire NFL. Put them in man coverage. That doesn't take onboarding. That doesn't take transitional states. That just puts calling them in man coverage, calling press coverage. Going to more stack boxes, changing your coverages pre to post snap. We were the 32nd team in the NFL. And what we showed you prior to the snap and coverage is what we were in the coverage post snap. 32nd in our predictability. The most predictable defense in its coverages on the back end last year in the NFL. That's not a transitional state at that point. It is simply, we're not going to do that thing anymore. That brings us no benefit. There is no upside to doing that. Easy enough for him to flip that and change that right over. And then thus to get the quick and easy results, Matthew, to your point, from away from that, to pull that away out of that then. And I agree, 100%. Hard to tap the brakes on it because it does look like that, yeah? Isaac says, time of possession. It was so freaking sweet to be on the dominant side of that again. Yeah. Nothing brutal than watching this team live on the field, defensively speaking, and giving up first down after first down after first down, and just slowly being like the fight between bosses in a movie, and the one guy's just slicing the one guy, not really getting a real good jab in, just kind of slicing here and slicing there, and off comes a finger, and right directly into my foot, You're in the end of that battle, and just the guy's just hanging on there. A bit of what it would be like. Jamarcus White, when is the joint practice with the Titans? That will be super good reps for us, especially after we've got a game under our belt and our confidence is high. It's this week. I can't remember if it's Wednesday or not. I want to say Wednesday, but I've admittedly, I'm sorry, Jamarcus, haven't looked super close on the timeline of that. But I agree with you. I'm very happy we're doing these inter-squad games. I think it will be the benefit. The health is the thing you worry about in these games. Like, don't get injured. Don't have me get any silly injuries. I'm not even really worried about the fight thing. The fight stuff will happen. Just don't get the injuries. Let's maintain our health. Always Dan Grenade says, where's the cat? Black cat B. The black cat's right next to me on my right side on the floor. Unfortunately, this orange one, as nice as she looks, as sweet as she looks, she's a bully. And she doesn't let the black one up here. Okay? Maybe she's racist. I don't know. I want to call her that. I don't want to put that on her. She's really just a bully. So it's her space. But at some point, I'll probably get a second cat tree here and see if I can get the other one up there. I still don't think she'd come up here, though, because she'd still scared that this one would go after her. Yeoman says, I've been sending her love. Cats are awesome. Yeah, she is. And she's awesome. She's always here by my side every stream. She's a good girl. Super lovey. She's not nice to her sister, but she's nice to me. Yeah. And very talkative. Seahawks Gaming, Brady Russell, tight end 3. He was the one who downed the punt at the 1. Had a hell of a game. And how about the Yak Brady? We got a little Yak Brady in this game. He caught that little route. One of the nice throws I thought from Sam Howell, where it wasn't a tough throw or a high degree of difficulty throw, but Sam took a little bit off the ball, put the ball in a pinpoint spot on Brady to where he could catch it and quickly turn into a runner. Brady changed direction, stuck his head down, got the end zone, caught a touchdown, had another catch in the game as well. As you said, down the punt, special teams play is always going to be a big part of it. But sadly, no. I think that the 3 tight ends are set at this point. It's going to be Noah Fant. It's going to be Farrell Brown. It's going to be A.J. Barner when it's all said and done. But can Brady force his way on the practice squad over a Westover potentially? Maybe. He keeps playing like that. Certainly is possible. Kevin O'Connell is still time trade DK. Just kidding. Always Dan Grenade says, fun facts, cats only purr for humans. That's right. Just for us. Huh. Just for us. You happy about the Hawks? We're going to win next week? No answer on that one. Isaac says, Pumpkins post Hawks win salmon drunk as F. Yeah, she is. She's got the salmon sweats right now. That's for sure. Well, I like the meat sweats. Yeah. Ricardo says, did you see when they did the triple stack of wide receivers on one side and the running back to the other side to take the dump off? Looked very UW-ish. I did. It's a lot of what they would do with UW. Is, they'll take a trips look, like you're talking about, Ricardo. You take it to the near side of the field or the short hash side of the field. And then to the field side, you've got a guy one-on-one set up the way you want. It could be a receiver on the outside. It could be you sending a running back out into space with a linebacker out there. But then there's nobody else around then to help that linebacker out. You've got a true one-on-one matchup then to that side. And you can isolate it that way because you force them to pull the defenders to the near side of the field, to the short hash side of the field to cover up those 3 receivers on that side. Yeah, it's part of the inherent parts of this offense and what it's trying to stylistically do. Y2K, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, let's remember, Geno is good at the quick throws. Oh, this offense is going to fit Geno real well. Real well. He's going to like it. And he can do a lot of the stuff that we saw with the 2 quarterbacks today struggling with. He's not going to have a problem with recognizing the blitz, getting protections changed, getting to the right play, being able to throw with anticipation, being able to hit those throws down the field when they present themselves. That's what Geno can bring to the play. And you're right. The quick throws, in addition to that, he's got a quick trigger, got a quick release, very accurate, and he can throw it with some velocity. It's going to fit really well into this team. And this is why he was so successful running basically a spread offense back in college and throwing for a gazillion yards in college, because he can run it so well. John says, look at all the Mike Morris out there doing a little bit of everything, a little bit of Mr. Versatile. I love how we're going back to those big edges, though, being more stout in the run game. I do too. Those tackles they're getting used to, John, those 255-pound edges now. The edges are like the inside linebackers. They just keep getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And then you go and take that tackle and you're like, oh, here's a 280-pound edge. And they're like, it feels like 330 pounds, John. You're going 255 to 280. It feels like that, damn, I can't move this guy. And no, you can't. And I like it too as well. I like it too as well. You force them into, hey, we've got guys that can hold up here on this edge. You're not going to move us, period. Period. At all. There's no chance of it. Just take it out of your game. You start to dishearten the offense on the other side at that point, John, and where they don't even want to try it when they see those personnel packages out there. And again, we come back to now you're taking it to the offense. Now you're dictating the terms, not having the terms dictated to you. SE Wolverines, I says, thought Kobe had a good game. Kobe Bryant did have a good game. Or you mean maybe Kobe Lewis, who you're talking about, because you put an E on that. And yeah, he was strong. Hard runner. Runs really well behind his pads. Runs with some power. I thought he was good too. Iverson, you missed the joke, my friend. It's Easton's dick and Mike's weenie. Hey, I've been streaming for a bunch of hours today, man. I'm a little slow. No worries, though. I could be a little juvenile here. I normally would pick it up, Iverson. I'm always a little bit brain dead as I get into hour 6, 7th-ish of streaming. The brain starts to go a little foggy. Drunk says, Justin Fields doesn't look good. Still, Bears stunt his growth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like both things can be true at the same time. And it's, for me, a case study. And it's not the only case study that I would operate off of, but it's one that just confirms more of what I've said for years, which is the process of bringing a quarterback in should be more than just, let's go get a QB. You just got to draft one. When there's one there, you just go out and take there. That there should be more of a process born into how is our environment right now? How are we set up to bring this kid success? How are we set up to be able to maximize this kid and get the most out of him and help him develop right? That should be more of the question that to me is asked at times, and it's not. And I don't think the Bears did at that time with Justin, and you're right. He still is in a state where you're looking for him to, come on, man, when are you going to get better? But it's also a little bit of, that's where you put him in that environment, bad habits get built, bad habits are hard to unwind, and it's going to maybe take some time with him. Garth Knight, thank you for, another $5 donation. And brother, all of your support today and always to the channel. As also a member of the channel, I really, really appreciate you, brother. You guys allow me to make this go. And I was able to do this throughout this off season because of your guys' support to this channel. I really do thank all of you for that. Had a great day today, but it's your guys' consistent love here on this that allows me to really do this. And it's not lost on me in the slightest on that. So thank you so much for that. Garth says, Pumpkin, I appreciate you keeping me off desk duty. Being in the field is in my blood. I trust your feline brilliance in all things. Dalton is the answer. Dalton is the answer. Bodie's a cool-ass character, right? You know what I mean? Bodie's a cool-ass character. But Dalton, I mean, come on. You know? Pain don't hurt. Come on. Having sex, holding up the woman up against a brick wall. Too badass. It's too badass, Garth. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, brother. JL says Dalton ripped throats. I don't know how much cooler you can get. There we go. I mean, that's the other part. Like, he can rip a man's throat out when he gets angry enough. The kicks are a little rough with Dalton, though. He's got to hold back on the karate kicks. Those look a little bit rough. Old School said more Bobo. We did have Curse too. No, we had a 5-6 guy stack on that receiving core, but I think you'd put the other 4 ahead of Curse on that if we're going, because the question was 1 through 4. If we had, this is the strongest we've ever had. I do think it's stronger than that core. Like Sidney was good, Percy was good, Golden was good, Doug was good, but this might be better. It might be. Especially consider, I think Sidney played like 3 games that year. Angry at Black Panthers isn't a real animal. It's just an all-back jaguar. I don't know, Isaac. You might be right on that. I'm still might be with you on this one. Zombie Central, it was funny watching Murphy get double teamed off the bat. Teams must be horrified of him. It was wild where he to your point, Zombies, he knocks the guy in the backfield, the guard. And it's like they went holy S because he comes back in pass protection and they're instant double team on him in pass pro. And then here comes this mother effer, this third guy sliding in. Like they're already Donalding him with three in pass pro. He got the third guy. I'm going to get a screenshot of it at some point when I get back into the tape. But he got the third guy by the time you're at one point in that point where the quarterback's in the pocket holding the ball, and there are three different men who have their hand on Byron Murphy trying to keep him from the quarterback. Diego says Curtis was getting owned at right tackle. He had a tough measure to go up against. He's starting in this game. He's going up at Tulio Otto, USC Trojan pass rusher who was a really refined pass rusher coming out. Really strong. That's a tough matchup for him. And, you know, he's a good soldier out there, Diego, trying to make it work at tackle, but he's a guard. At the end of the day, he's a guard. And Abe is hurt. George Fant is a guy that they're being protective with, I think, because they want to make sure he's good to go to fill in for Abe until Abe is right, / Abe might not be able to go. You don't know what you have in Michael Jarrell quite yet. So they liked where Curtis was a little bit more in his process to put him out there, but you were trying to get by with him out there. You weren't expecting him, I don't think, to come out there and really hold the line much as far as a tackle goes. Yeoman says the wide receivers were good in 2013 because we had a punishing running game. We did. There was also the investment in it, though, too. You had a first round, third round pick invested in Percy. You had all the money you gave to Sidney in the free agent deal that you gave him. And then you've got Golden Tate, former second round pick. Doug was the only undrafted kind of guy, but likewise, we got Bobo as the undrafted guy here in this unit. Maybe they're almost equal. Maybe then one more better than the other. It's like they're different but equal. Well, Dan Grenade says Murphy got triple teamed and lost his helmet. There was a picture of a certain former Rams player floating around comparing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what you would see with Aaron Donald that would stand out at times. Is I can get you cut ups of Aaron Donald where he's triple teamed at times and he's got three guys' hands. And I was seeing the same thing. I called it during the live stream of the game on the play-by-play because you saw it's like he's triple teamed, and you're right on that play where he's triple teamed. He ended up with his helmet still ripped off his head. Like you got three sets of hands, and that's not enough. You still got to rip off the guy's helmet on top of it. Damn. Corey says, who makes the Hall of Fame first, Sean Alexander or Marshawn Lynch? I believe Sean is long overdue. It's a hard question to answer, Corey. It is a tough question to answer because in some ways it's trying to read, and let me make sure I'm putting this point out there, Corey, as I answer this question. I always like to because sometimes people will get a little bit, in their feelings about my response on this as though I'm speaking from my personal standpoint on this. So let me preface this. This wouldn't be my opinion on this, but I'm speaking, of course, of the opinion that matters in this case, Corey, being what I think the intention is and where I think the writers are operating from in what they will intend to choose to do. I think both guys are going to have an uphill battle in making the Hall of Fame for separate reasons. Sean Alexander, it may be unfair. It may be, not right, but people I think are going to look a little bit at the fact that he had two Hall of Famers blocking in front of him and a really good offensive line. And when he lost those things, he became much less as a player. Did he get injured? Did that help hasten the process? Yes. That's not just the only thing with Sean, though. And I don't think that that's just the only thing the voters would take into account as well. There was at times the running style that he would bring into play, where if it was between the 20s and he knew it was going to be a big play, he might go down really easily. And then he runs really hard when he gets inside the 20-yard line. You've got the fact that him trying to catch the ball at the backfield when it wasn't a screen and you're actually asking him to catch a throw out into the flat or underneath, that he'd kind of have some tough hands. There'd be a lot of drops there on Sean's resume. And he was not good in pass protection when you asked him to do that. Now, the most important thing a running back does is run the ball. So those are ancillary things to your main job. But when you combine those things that I just mentioned with the fact that he is short of the 10,000-yard mark, which usually is the base prerequisite to even start to be considered to get in, and there is a logjam of guys that are around the 10,000 mark that haven't gotten in, I think it's going to be hard for him to find his way through there. Marshawn, I think, even though he doesn't have the statistical production of Sean, has, I think, a bit of an easier road to get in there because of the reason being that cat's a little needy right now. Because of the fact that he was, I don't want to say generational, but he was, you could make an argument he was a back of his generation along with Adrian Peterson, and that his resonance on the game continued to last even outside of Marshawn's impact on the field. That there are running backs to this day that reference beast mode in their stylings. And that in itself should be maybe an indication he should go in. And that the writers would let him in because of that. He'd have sort of that Earl Campbell kind of reputation that allows him to get in, even if his career was a little shortened, like with Earl Campbell's career in the same way. The problem comes in with Marshawn, though, Corey, in that he's got the press conference stuff, and I don't want to talk to the media, and you're talking about the media having to be the ones who vote him in. So the same media that he said, no comment, you're not getting an interview from me, I'm not going to answer your questions, I'm just here so I don't get fined. That media can tend to be pretty petty. A lot of Kyle Petty's out there in the media, and that might cause it to be just enough to allow him not to get in on that other side of it. So I'd say both are going to have a long road to getting in. I think Marshawn's got a little bit more of a clear road to get in because he's got kind of that specialized track of getting into the Hall of Fame, where it's not really the statistical productive side of it that pushes him in. It's more about, yeah, he's got the statistics to a degree, but it's also about what he brought to the position, the way he changed the position a little bit. There you go. I'm excited for Hall and Morris too. Sounds like a law firm. Hall and Morris, defensive linemen that'll ruin your day. Oh, Isaac is with me too. Isaac thought the same thing. Great minds, let's think alike, Isaac. It does look like that. When you put it in big caps like that, Hall and Morris. Max, we had no injuries, it seemed. That is the best part about today. That is a great part about today. I hadn't noted, Max. Well spotted on your part. Indeed, we've heard about no injuries so far, which is good to hear. Very good to hear. Century Seahawk was kind of weird to watch today with all the changes made. A bunch of new faces I'm rooting for. It's a new regime. It's going to be a whole new thing. Yeah, it's after 14 straight years of kind of seeing some of the same stuff. It's a shock to the system, a bit of a jolt when you see something so new like this. Boy, it was good to see. Great results. Matthew Phillips says, I'm wearing my meat sweats right now. Let's go. That's a great joke. Zombie Central, this game also really helped set my belief that Walker is going to be a touchdown machine this year. It felt like every time we got within 30 yards of the goal line, we just ran it until we couldn't. Indeed. There was a commitment level there to it when we got down there, and that's what they say. You throw between the 20s, you throw to move the ball, you got to run to score. And that's what's behind that belief a little bit. And I like to see them do it. I liked even the fourth down call, trying to get down. Let's hammer this in. I like the mentality behind that. Let's see if we can push them a yard off the ball. So, yeah, it was good to see. It's good to see that commitment level there when they got down near that goal line. And I do think you're looking at a 14-15 touchdown season from Walker, both cumulatively between what he totes in and what he catches out of the backfield. Robert Jimenez, thank you for another $2 donation. Says, when will the pumpkin game prediction premiere? I haven't shot it yet, so I'm trying to kind of figure out how to shoot it. I'm in a different location, and so it's a little bit harder from where I'm at right now to kind of put something together, but I'll try with it, Robert, to maybe put something together. We did have a lot of views on the video I did last year. The people that watched it loved it, but it didn't necessarily get as many views as I thought, and it takes quite a bit of time to kind of put it together, but I'll see if I can whip something up. If you guys want it on, you guys request my demand, Robert. So let me see if I can figure it out with her. She certainly would like to do a day of salmon snacks and prediction videos. I'll try to get that up if I can. Appreciate you, Robert. Thank you, man. Max, the definitive non-debatable rankings of our receivers now and back in the day. DK, better than Baldwin, who was better than Sidney, who's better than Lockett, who's better than Tate, who's better than JSN, better than Curse, who's better than Bobo. I don't know. I think Sidney Rice maybe had when he was at his most impactful was maybe at that spot, but I think Lockett probably has had the better career than Sidney. And if we're talking about where Sidney was in 2013 versus where Lockett is right now, Lockett's still the better player because Sidney was kind of getting broken down at that point with the injury situation. I also think that JSN is going to be better than Golden Tate as a football player. Psst. Hey, stop. Cat's getting feisty out there. Cat's getting feisty. And I'd have Bobo better than Curse, in my opinion. I know Bobo Curse gets a lot of love, and I like Curse too, but this is that part where I go, maybe there's more of the equivalency there than there is the separation between them. Yeah, I can't put Sidney above Lockett. He had a great year with Favre of like 1,300 yards and a couple of years where he was productive, but that's a far cry from Locke's consistent production. T Favors is checking in here with my favorite Garfield and John. What's up, T Favor? Thank you, man. And Max, it's okay. It's a very close thing, Max. Even if I disagree or some of the chat might disagree on that, there's a very, I think, close kind of equivalency here if we were to put like a numerical number attachment with each of them to get to a bottom line. Jamarcus says, who's this guy that keeps talking during Pumpkin's podcast? Rice was good though, Max. He was legit when he was healthy. Jamarcus White says, was hilarious hearing the LA commentators hyping up Brendan Rice all game, saying they need to go to him on fourth down, and he finally got his S on fourth down, and D. Williams immediately batted it away. Quiet day from Brendan. Yeah, he got a lot of run in this game too, Jamarcus, to your point. He got a lot of opportunities, and those receivers did a lot of nothing for the Chargers today. Felt like they were throwing to running backs and tight ends, and that was about it. Old School Seahawks says, Bobo gave me a high five in Baltimore last year. Hand of God. Let's go. That's the Bobo I know. You're going to the New England game? Old School Seahawk? Nice. Hashtag Road Warrior. Guard 9 says, remember when Sean Alexander had a career post-Seahawks? That Washington Redskin run. Yeoman did win plenty of money that year. Respect to Shawnee. Oh, you're talking about John says, I believe Marshawn is in myself just for his style and impact in the game alone. If you have a couple of the best runs in history of the NFL, how do you not get in the Hall of Fame? Well, especially when you have him in like one of the moments in beast modes in a playoff game. I mean, you're talking about something actually on the line when you do something great. He also was outstanding in his 2 Super Bowl games that he did play in on top of that. I mean, he's got a good amount of yardage and play postseason action on top of what he did during the regular season. And he's just barely short on those sort of 10,000 yard metrics points. You know, he's a couple thousand yards short. It's not a big enough deal. And as I always say, if you're going to let Earl Campbell in, I don't know how you can't let Marshawn Lynch in. Because there's definitely some, to me, equivalency there a little bit. So I think he should, John. To me, it's not a matter of if on the merits, it'll be just on that whole Kyle Petty stuff. If those reporters will be kind of like, no, you didn't help me, now I'm not going to help you. Michael Hyde, thank you for the $10 donation. Michael, I really do appreciate you for that. Very kind of you. Just got back home from work and I missed the game. You probably already answered this, but quick thoughts on the offense and defensive play calling and Byron Murphy. Excited to spend another season with you. All love. Well, thank you, Michael. And man, you drop a $10 donut. I'll always give you a rehash on what went down and how it went and what. This is a defensive day that carried the day as much as anything, Michael. And what stood about this defense today was that they were good from start to finish. That this was a defense that was suffocating, as I put in my title, that they weren't allowing anything on the ground, that it felt like the quarterbacks were completely uncomfortable, that when there were throws, when there were completions, you were tackling the guys and quickly taking them to the ground. And that anything that the offense was able to get against your defense today was hard. It was you making them climb uphill on muddy ground. Or as Wesley Snipes would say, I skate up a hill. I skate up a hill, you know. Kitty. Pumpkin's getting big needy. So first and foremost, this defense was very impressive in this game, Michael, in that they were all of that while playing a pretty vanilla scheme. None of the stack boxes we expected to see. Very minute amount of blitzing from Mike Macdonald. He was just going to go out there, trust his guys to stay back, usually in zone coverage. A little bit of man concepts early on, but it was mainly zone as you went along in the game, especially as you got the lead going on in the game. And you were able to create pressure with the front four. It was a variety of guys getting it done on that front four throughout the course of the game. But the defense was outstanding in every way. They were disciplined. I don't know if there was a missed tackle to be had on the day on this defense. I don't know if there's one guy that missed one spot to wrap a guy up and bring him down to the ground. From your start to your finish, your first man through the 53rd man on this roster, or those guys out playing this game, everybody kind of on that defense held up their end of the bargain. So it was interesting to see that they played at that kind of level they did, Michael, while being so vanilla as they were. And I think that makes it all that much more impressive, especially for being the first game for Mike Macdonald here. This is his initial foray here out into the Pumpkin's getting feisty. Out into it. The play calling, though, wasn't intricate. Like, he didn't try out a lot of stuff. In fact, Michael, if you go back and watch the tape on this game, you're going to find that the Chargers are running a lot more of what we might have thought the Hawks were going to run in this game. A lot more stack boxes, a lot of more pressure fronts, a lot more blitzing and trying to take it to the quarterback. We just kind of stayed back in vanilla in this one and trusted our guys to get it done. You move some guys around the defensive line. You had guys like Mike Morris playing all over that line there at times. But everybody played pretty good. Everybody held up their end of things, even down to that fourth string guy. You got a guy by the end, Michael Sharif, in there at edge, who 3 straight plays was causing pressure at the end. When Chargers were throwing on every play pretty much by that point. Byron Murphy was sensational. I don't mean to be too homer on this, but he showed up and was impactful from the moment you saw him up on the defensive line. I think one of his first plays, he blew back the guard in the backfield, made a tackle, 2-yard loss. Comes back the next play. They're triple teaming him on the next play. Has it to play a little bit later on where he's back in the backfield. He has a sack, has the quarterback dead to rights. Quarterback just gets out of his hands, but Derek Hall's right there to then take him down for the sack. So it's pretty much a sack you could have accredited there, Michael, to Byron Murphy. He had another one where he came around the edge on another side, pressing down behind on the quarterback. The quarterback had an open door through the front of the pocket, so the quarterback was able to scramble and go get like 12 yards and a first down the play. But again, he's creating that pressure there in that moment. I think the coaching staff kind of took him off the field at that point and was like, that's enough. Hayes in the barn. We saw what we needed to see. You're good to go. And in fact, I would measure to guess that Murphy's not going to get a lot of run in this preseason if he is going to look this good. He looked like the real deal, like a first-round pick and like a first-round pick that's ready to give you some kind of day one impact. It's one game. I'm not going to make too much of it, but that's just how he looked in the first game, Michael. You know, offensive play calling was a little bit more exciting than the defensive play calling. The defense just was giving you meat and potatoes, a great performance. It wasn't on the back of them doing anything real intricate on their side of the ball. The offense was doing a little bit more of the manufactured stuff. You're getting the cut of Ryan Grubb's jib here, being that he's a guy that's going to attack you all over the place. So you saw him hitting different levels of the football field at different times in the game, attacking the middle of the field, getting to the edges on little flat route throws, hitting little short throws, stop routes into the middle of the field here, being willing to push the ball down the field in a couple of moments in this game as well, bringing the screen game into play, Michael. You know, once every 8 plays at UW, you're going to get a screen play. You got that here again today. It might be a traditional screen play to the back, or it might be a bubble screen out there to the wide receiver. But you're always going to have that flexed in, and the defense is always going to have to be aware and maintain it, and it keeps that defensive course from oftentimes being able to cheat a little bit. But you saw from Grubb in the offense and the play calling, Michael, easy throws for the quarterback at times, especially on some out routes where ball's in the quarterback's hand, ball's out of the quarterback's hand. A lot of getting that ball out of the quarterback's hand, a lot of maybe limiting some of those pass attempts where you have the quarterback having to drop back and process through a lot of information and risk those sacks, risk them making a bad decision with the ball and how they throw it at that point. So pretty much as advertised on both sides of the ball. Grubb was not quite to the impressive level of McDonald, but McDonald's defense was sensational in every way. Michael, you started out this game causing the offense to be 0 for 8 on third downs. They didn't get their first third down conversion until late into the third quarter, and they were only, I think, 2 for 12 on third downs throughout the course of the game. I think you can come down to a bottom line stat on this game, and you look at the third down conversion rates between the Seahawks and the Chargers in this one, that almost kind of tells the whole tale of this game in itself, I would say. But nothing but good coming out of this game, really. There's very little that you can kind of pick apart that was bad. Sam Howell started out really good. It kind of wavered a little bit midway, came back and finished with the final drive being pretty strong. PJ Walker was a little bit of a mixed bag on his side of it. But everybody else, running backs ran strong. Receivers caught the ball when it was thrown their way. Your defenders tackled. Your front four created pressure on their own. It's kind of all good. It's kind of just all good. Max says Marshawn has some of the greatest runs of all time. He's greater than his stats because of his amazing plays. I think that will give him an edge with Hall of Fame voters. I hope it does, Max. I want to see him in for those, and I agree with everything you say on that. He should have an inroads to getting here because this is the model that's set. The model that can be set can be one that you have to get by getting the statistical production and hitting those markers over a long period of time, but it also can come by the level of impact you might bring over a shorter period of time. And Marshawn has every argument to be made that he made that short impact. He made that major impact in that maybe it wasn't supremely short time, but in the shorter time than, let's say, a 10-year run where you get well over the 10,000 yards and it becomes automatic. Or closer to automatic. Isaac's a serious question. Anyone else notice we had 2 number 0s and 2 number 13s? Is that normal during preseason? I haven't seen it before, but I guess it could be because you got just so many guys on the roster that the possibility is there that it shows up in that way. But I don't know on that. That's a good question, Isaac. I'm not sure. Chase, thank you for the $5 donation, Chase. I really appreciate it, man. And thank you again for being a member of the channel. So excited for the defense. And Geno will cook in this offense. Geno's going to be a great fit to this offense. He had the best statistical career of his career in college in the spread offense at West Virginia, where he threw for a gazillion yards. And he's going to go to a spread concepts here that's going to have a lot of similar designs to what he ran in college, and he will fit to it. Part of the reason why maybe we're seeing Geno looking at his best in this training camp, that the reports have been so glowing day after day, that he looked brilliant to me in the 2 days of practice that I got to watch of him. I think he's going to fit very well to this offense. I think it's going to really just lean into what he does good, lean into his skill set. And I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do in this chase. I'm predicting 4,600 yards. I'm predicting 35 touchdowns as long as he can stay healthy. And I think he's going to attain it. I do. But the defense too, Chase, outstanding. We thought there was going to be bumps in the road today, folks. We thought we're going to have to iron kinks out. We thought this thing was going to look like those shirts where you forgot it was in the dryer and then you left it in the dryer and it's your button-up shirt and you're pulling out the dryer and it's got all the wrinkles all in it and it's bubbly over here and it just looks a mess. You're like, do I got to wash this again? You're like, no, I'll steam it. I'll get the iron on it. And you're just over there and just ironing the hell out of that thing. Like, why is these wrinkles not coming out? Not today, man. We pulled that thing out right before the buzzer went off on the dryer. We pulled that thing out. Got it out. Perfect. Got that just like light toastiness to it. Yeah. Not a wrinkle to be found. Not a wrinkle to be found, Chase. And nothing but an encouraging result all the way around here from the offense to the defensive side of the ball. You couldn't have asked, I don't think, for a better preseason game absent. We shut them out and we scored 70 points. Max says Bobby Ingram was awesome. He's a wide receiver coach of the Washington Commanders. Fun fact. Definitely one of the better all-time receivers in Seahawks history, Bobby Ingram. Underrated guy, doesn't get talked a lot about. One of those guys that was a slot-o-matic guy. That third down conversion dude. That a guy that, was was Matt Hasselbeck's really security blanket through much of that Hasselbeck era there. And so steady, so fun to watch with the ball in his hands. Good punt returner too. He had a little bit of shake to him, did Bobby. A little undersized, but you could trust him on third down. He'd make that catch. He'd get open. Max Bailey says, Brandon has spoken. Lockett is better than Rice. Now, 1 year with Favre was dynamic. Don't get me wrong. He blew it up, but yeah, he's got the bigger physical profile, a little bit longer, but I got to give the nod to Ty. Isaac says, I was like, wait, is Aesop Winston playing defense? I hadn't noticed as much, but yeah, now that you mention it, it is true. Yeoman says, you don't get to a Super Bowl without some good receivers. I was being sarcastic, giving Matt all the credit. Oh, okay. Yeah, we had some good receivers back then. Zombie, also, I was surprised to not see Johnson out there today for the Chargers. Felt like he could use some preseason work on his game catching. He's had some brutal cuts coming out of practice where it just doesn't look like he can catch a cold. Where there could be a ball right there in the breadbasket of his hands. He doesn't even have to reach out for it. Just catch it right in here, and he still can't cradle it in. I don't know if he's up in his head right now, or maybe we're just getting his bad reps and he'll turn it on come regular season. But I'd be taking the under on Johnson right now on the underdog bets with that. I'll tell you that. Air Grenade says, Bobo makes the plays during the game. Jermaine was, I need a TD to win. Bobo does that the entire game. Let's go, Hand Grenade. Exactly. Isaac says, how many pro athletes can seismic activity be directly attributed to? That's true, man. You caused an earthquake. That's almost Hall of Fame worthy right there, right? I made the earth shake. I was so good. What did you do? I don't know, Yeoman. Jerry Rice he was pretty good for us that 1 year. He had some games. He had that one game he caught like 140 yards or something. Space Myers missed a PAT. He did get a 48-yarder, which was good, but hopefully we're getting good Myers this year. Jamarcus says, I could easily be reading too far into it, but to me, the defense looked like we were playing with a completely different tenacity. Everyone rallied to the ball and no missed tackles. It shows that these guys are buying into the coaching. Well, I think that I don't know for sure if there was a lack of accountability before. I wonder if there was a little bit, and that was breeding a little bit of a ground there for guys to not be going at that level of intensity, and that you get a new boss in, and you know that your feet are being held to fire, and that everybody is on deck on the evaluation point of things, that nobody gets to ride by on goodwill. Everybody is under that sort of, you're being tested, you're being looked at closely as to where you're at and what you're bringing to this team and what you're going to bring in the long-term future. And that makes everybody toe the line a little bit, maybe, so to speak. But I agree with you. It certainly is not a feeling of anywhere that you're not getting a buy-in or that there's some quasi lack of buy-in. It's nothing but that on the other opposite end of it. And from the way the players have talked, to how it sounds like they're practicing, to the intensity they're bringing both at practices and now what we're seeing from the games, it seems like Mike Macdonald's getting that buy-in. Will it bear out to wins come the regular season? Will it bear out to the team being a contender this year? That part we'll have to see. But it is hard to get the buy-in at times from players. That's not an easy ground to get over, and you can't fake it with them. And I think part of the reason you're getting the buy-in with Macdonald here, and then we're seeing it so quickly, is because the players can feel his intelligence. They can feel how he is a smart coach who will help to put them in the positions to be successful. You can't fake him, But that fake goes both ways. It goes in when you got a guy that, hey, this guy's schematically holding us back. This guy's not exactly getting the most out of us to be able to maximize. They're able to out chess match us every week. First, I know my coach is going to have that taken care of. Now I need to hold up my end of the bargain. Isaac says, not meant to be a shot at PC, but we were running the first quarter and winning in the second quarter and winning in the third quarter. And what the F do you know? By the end of the fourth quarter, we had won. It is a difference of philosophies and approach a bit there. And it's two different approaches, like you say. It's not as necessarily that Pete's approach can't work or isn't one that has its own methodology to it. But like you, I think this new methodology is one that I like to ascribe to as well. Of we can go out in a first quarter and second quarter and step on a team, step on their throat, put that pressure on then and throughout the game, just tightening it more and more. And then you can get to a fourth quarter and you're up by a couple touchdowns and you've tired out that other defense and they don't have a lot in the tank to be able to combat you with. And it can go that way too. Yes, sir. Michael says, I like what I'm hearing. Let's go, Michael. Michael says, damn, 0-8. Holy crap. It was the stat I was looking at coming in this game, Michael, is can we get more of a off the field? Can you get more of those 3 and outs? And you're going, wow, it seems like we just keep getting them off the field. And you go and track the stat and you go, whoa, 0-8. I don't know the last game we ever started out keeping an offense out from their first 8 third down attempts from getting a first down. Yeoman says even Walker had a few other third and double-digit completions. He had a few moments too. Overall, a team win. Yeah, Walker had some scary moments, but he had some good moments too. And those third down completions, as I say, those are big boy throws. Over the middle of the football field, 15 yards down the field. You got to put it with both velocity and you got to put it with sort of a, not pinpoint accuracy, but very specific accuracy in where you're putting the ball because there's a lot of defenders around that player. And he was able on both those throws to fit into a nice spot, give his receivers a chance to make a catch. They did so. And he had some good throws in that game, some good decision-making in that game, mixed with some of the bad a little bit. Garth Knight, thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate you for that, Garth. Says, are you kidding me? Lynch will be in the Hall of Fame before Kyle Shanahan gets. Beyond that Super Bowl, we all know. Indeed, if you're asking me to make a bet, Garth, of does Marshawn Lynch get in the Super Bowl first or Kyle Shanahan get a Super Bowl win first? I'm going to go with Marshawn Lynch gets in the Hall of Fame before that happens. I am going to go ahead and say that's going to be the reality of it. That's just, I don't know, that's just what the tea leaves are saying, Garth. I'm just listening to the tea leaves, man. And they're saying, Shanny, no way. Isaac says, I'm really freaking excited about the potential of this offense, given how good our defense might be, hopefully. Hashtag grub. And to your point, you had the 8th most efficient offense in all of the NFL last year, but you didn't get the characterization of the brass tacks, bottom line results of a lot of scoring from that offense necessarily, of a top 5 offense necessarily, or top, because you had a defense living on the football field so much and often giving that offense as many opportunities to go out there and score those points and to be as good as they really truly were. This year, to your point, you might get that because you're going to get a defense more often than not getting off the field. Steve, FYI, Lynch in the Hall of Fame, laughing out loud. Come on, do your host better. So, Steve-O, if you don't think Lynch is in the Hall of Fame, how is Earl Campbell in the Hall of Fame, but Lynch doesn't get in the Hall of Fame? Lynch has more yards than Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell played in an era where running backs tended to get more yards than the era that Marshawn Lynch played in. So how do we go to a place where we go with a guy like Earl Campbell, who I believe had a shorter career than Marshawn Lynch, who never played in a Super Bowl, much less was awesome in both the Super Bowls he played in? How would that guy get in, but the other guy doesn't? I think we can say they had probably similar impact in their running styles and what they did on a football field, their level of intimidation, how good they just were as a bottom line, even outside of the stats, how good players of that era would talk about them. Are players going to talk about Marshawn Lynch as the running back of this era When they talk about and they ask him, hey, well, who's the running back that scared you to death? Who's the running back who put the fear of God in you that you didn't want any part of on a given Sunday? Is there going to be a lot of answers of Marshawn Lynch of that list of players you questioned? Yeah, absolutely there will be. Ricky Ricardo says, how do you think Mike Morris did overall? Mike Morris played a great game, Ricky. He was used all over the defensive line. He set the edge as a power edge well in the run game. He provided some pass rush up the middle. Even late in the game, I saw him going up and splitting up between a double team, using his power to get in the backfield, forcing the quarterback up, where I believe that the quarterback got sacked after that, but it was him kind of forcing the initial pressure up the middle there. And then even had to play Ricky out in coverage, where he spot drops off the edge like an outside stand-up linebacker, picks up the player in coverage, flips his hips, and then makes a play on the ball in addition to that. I mean, that was just his most outstanding play on the day, but overall well-rounded game throughout, played throughout this game. I think he got as many snaps as any defensive lineman on the field in this one because he was out all year with the shoulder surgery, so you wanted to get him some reps. But Mike looked really good, Ricky. Really good. Like a guy that definitely is going to make this roster. Matthew says, I know it's preseason, but yeah, 3 points feels good. I guess somebody was saying above, Matthew. Nobody else in this preseason first slate of games has kept anybody else to just 3 points. So maybe there's at least something in that. Max says, Quentin Johnson played in the second quarter only, according to a Chargers postgame podcast. I guess he got clamped up by our cornerbacks because I didn't see him. Yeah, he didn't get a target, that's for sure, Max. I don't know why they wouldn't run him more, though. It seems like he needs game action. John says, what about Corn Robinson, man? He had it all. If he could have actually got his stuff together, he could have been one of the greats, just like Stevens. Yeah. No, Corn was a 7th overall pick in the first round of a draft. I think that is, at this point, still... I think Galloway was even later. So I think that this is the... If I'm not mistaken, I want to say Galloway might have been higher, might have been the 4th overall player. I can't remember on Joey. But it was either him or Corn as the highest receiver you've ever taken in a draft. And Corn had all the talent in the world, and he flashed it. You know, you did get to see a couple seasons there what he could bring. And you're right, just couldn't quite get things together. And then once he got things together, that knee was in some tough shape at that point. You know, physically sounds like the knee just kind of eroded on him a bit. But hell of a player, man. Hell of a player coming out. He was uniquely gifted. John says, do you think Harbaugh is going to try to run more quarterback design runs with Herbert? I often hope they don't, John. I mean, you saw Mark Roman trying to run the Lamar Jackson offense, the Colin Kaepernick offense out there today. And okay, you want to do that with Easton Stick and Max Duggan, fine. But don't do that with Justin Herbert. Don't do that with the guy you're paying $250 million to. And this is a bit of my issue, I think, with Roman as the coordinator there in the first place, is I don't see the fit between Mark Roman and Justin Herbert. I don't get that fit. It just seems like that's who Harbaugh was comfortable with. That's who he was familiar with. And so he decided to go with that guy. I hope they don't, John, but I get the impression the way they ran the offense today that they're going to do some of it. John says also, why do they keep getting Herbert these possession receivers like McConkey with the giant arm? He's never had a deep threat in his whole career. I don't understand that pairing with Herbert Lombardi last year with this dink and dunk offense. He needs... I'm homie's offense where he can threaten every blade of grass with his arm. I'm with you, man. I'm completely with you. Their approach to the receiving core was a little bit odd this offseason. Some of it, I think, is representatory of the fact that Harbaugh's not going to be very pass heavy, John. You know, he's like, why do I need all these receivers? Why should I go out and seek out all these receivers when I'm not intending to throw the ball very much? They seem to be trying to salvage what they can get out of Quentin Johnson in addition to this. I think Ladd McConkey is going to be great for them. I think he's going to go for over 1,000 yards for them in this offense. But yeah, their approach to Justin Herbert, it's a little bit like when you backtrack into some of these other positions and situations where it's very reactionary in their approach here. There doesn't seem to be a vision from the Chargers from day one with Herbert of how to get the most out of him, of how to maximize this kid's talent to the utmost. So instead, it seems kind of a reactionary, trying to fix stuff as you go along kind of thing. Corey says, I think the Legion of Boom should be in the Hall of Fame. Sherman, Chancellor, Thomas, all deserve the Hall of Fame in their short careers. I believe they were the number one scoring defense for 4 years. I'm with it if they go in, man. I ain't going to push back or say or say that they shouldn't go in when they come up to be due on it. I don't have a good prediction on it if they will or not. It's going to be tough for them on the longevity, but we can come back to impact. Does impact end up carrying the day? Was the impact as great as it was for that shorter period of time good enough to allow them all an entrance in? It'll be the interesting thing to watch, and I don't have a feel for it on that side of it quite, where the Writers Association will go with that. But I'd love to see it. DeMarcus says, bet we'll see an increase in McDonald's blitz rate from last year, considering the corners he has dealing with now. All they need to do is hold up for a little bit before the blitz gets there, and boom. I agree with you, DeMarcus. I always think this scheme has a little bit of an inherent pull within it. And that inherent pull within it is, can my guys hold up and man on the outside, and can I run some of those heavy blitzes? Can I overload that offensive line? Can I get some free rushers? Can I speed up that quarterback's clock? Can I start to get him, like we saw the players today without the blitz even coming, jumpy and getting through their reads too quick and uncomfortable and phased? And yes, I do agree with you. I think that you're going to see in McDonald, the guy last year that I think blitzed at like the 16th, right around middle of the pack, 16th to 18th highest rated in the league. I think he takes that up to almost near a top 10 state this year at times because of the fact that he knows he can trust those corners on the outside. And not just Evan Witherspoon and not just Tariq Woolen, but also Trey Brown. And early in this game, Jamarcus White, he had Trey Brown and Tariq both at the same time, up and press coverage, rock and man coverage concepts off the back of it. So more proof to your pudding on what you're selling there. Matthew Phillips Hall looked really good too. Yeah. We want him to be that third edge because you think you're two starting edges and those guys aren't going to run 80% of the snaps. You want to get them all down on the snap count a little bit lower and equalized out so that really what you have is three starting edges in the rotation of the snaps that they get to keep them fresh, to keep the position strong throughout the course of the game. So there's a role here for Hall. There's a role that's in many ways going to be every bit as important as a Uchenna and as a Boye Mafe. And he did look good. So good to see that he's maybe ascending into that. Warchief says Marshawn Lynch will be in the Hall of Fame just for the fact he's one of the most important figures in modern football history. Facts. Not to mention he'd run over your favorite linebacker. Aloha, B. I wanted to say that being a hardcore Cortez Kennedy fan, I've been waiting for a new, young defensive lineman to cheer for, and I think I found my guy. I've been riding high with Big Murph. You should be, man. That was a hell of a debut for Mike Macdonald. Hell of a debut for Byron Murphy. He was outstanding in the bit of action that he got in this game, and just goes in accompaniment with what we've heard about Byron Murphy throughout training camp and the reports that we're hearing from him. Yeah, hand grenade will be interesting on Earl if he can get in or not. Even more Seahawks has been a member of the Hawks Nest for 6 months. Thank you for that, brother. I really appreciate that. Says, no way you're still up at 11 p.m. You must be feeling how I am. And that's big things are coming from Mike Macdonald and showing he's willing to go for it on fourth down. Yeah, maybe we'll have to call him Big Balls Mac. Big Balls Mac in the house there going for it on fourth down in the game. I like to see it too, right at the goal line. Because what's the downside of that? You go for it on fourth down, the offense comes back out there, they got it on the 1 yard line. Good luck against this defense today with that, right? So if you can trust your defense in that way, makes you feel that much more confident that you can go for it in those kind of situations. And I'm hyped up, man. First game of the season, I can't call it early on that. I can't quit you guys early on that. You know how I got to do, feed me. Appreciate you, brother. Jamarcus, it's Dugan, not Dugan, unfortunately. Is it Duggan? Duggan. I won't say it right. I'm going to mess it up. I'm just going to call him Max, Jamarcus. I got to take the L on that one. You're calling him Big Murph now, War Chief? I like that nickname, Big Murph. Jack Maloney, greetings from Canada. I'm new to football, and I see we play the Broncos week 1. Are we going to smash them again? What's Mr. Unlimited's number? No, it's pretty limited, to be honest with you. Jack, I do think we're going to have a And I think we're going to take care of the Broncos week 1, Jack. We beat them 2 years ago, and that was with a much stronger team, in my opinion. Certainly the Wilson situation didn't work out there in Denver, but they had their running backs in place. They had the receivers there at that time, rolling strong. Defensively, they were coming off that defense, and that defense throughout the year was absolutely suffocating for the most part. So you had a tougher team coming in week 1 a couple of years ago than this current one, not to mention you're getting probably going to be a rookie quarterback coming into play his first start. So I think it's going to be a game we're going to take care of them. I think the Broncos are in a little bit of slight disarray / transitional period state where they're at right now with Sean Payton and what he's trying to institute there. So a matchup I'm glad that we got week 1. This is the kind of play, you want to, I'm not going to call it's not an easy win. It's going to be a tough game still. So I'm not saying it's an easy win, but it's well set up for Mike Macdonald to go out there and have a first opening game and where you can go out there and just take care of business without us having to be world beaters to pull that one off. And so I like it, Jack. I like it as an opening matchup, and I do like it as a 10-point win for your Seahawks. And I do think with where you've seen Justin Fields this year, Jack, Russell Wilson is going to play probably the majority of the snaps this year as a starter for Steelers, and they're going to limit his attempts. And I actually think he can play pretty proficiently in that offense with limited attempts, having him a lot of rollouts, a lot of simplistic reads for him. Defense will play really well there. I know people are throwing out Russell right now as not being a guy that can have any more impact. He's almost done. He's at the end of the road, but there may be one last splash there that Russell's got inside him here for this upcoming season. Jason Tudor, did you see corners matching up across the formation, e.g. locking to a certain receiver? No, that's a bit of the Jason, the vanilla that I saw from this team today. So you kept Tariq Woolen, I believe, was to the right side all day long. Maybe this is a little bit because there wasn't a receiver out there worthy of traveling with Jason, but I believe that you had Tariq over there on the right side, and then you had Trey Brown to the left, outside corner spot on all of the snaps. But that's part of that. Everything was kind of kept vanilla and simplistic in this. But I do see, yes, they've indicated very heavily that Tariq Woolen especially is going to be a guy that travels with the number 1 receiver. He'll be matched up in that way, which fits to him really well, I think. But we'll probably have to wait for that for the regular season. Chris Smokehawk Neslin. This was the most solid and complete team performance in a preseason game that I can remember. Go Hawks. Indeed. Hard to find a more complete team victory than this one. Your special teams played great. Your offense, defense, both solid. Defense dominant. You didn't make any great mistakes. You were fundamentally sound. You were disciplined as a team. Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate way of putting it, Chris. I do. Corey, there's never been a defense, I don't think, that's had 4 straight years of the number 1 defense in 20 years. To your point on that, no. I think that's the LB was the only ones on that side of it. The only ones. Carr says Legion of Boom should be in the hall with Earl's bro and Russ. It's all very ... Warjeev, I got homies who are Bear fans. They've been talking smack all offseason about Caleb Williams, who looks like crap at the moment. I can't wait to play the Bears. Good matchup. He had some ups and downs today. He playing the Bills defense. I thought he made a couple throws that weren't too bad. But we'll see with the Bears. Still a young team, still kind of trying to come along and find their footing. A lot of people are kind of riding high on them, and they haven't quite gotten to that stage of things quite yet, especially considering they do have that rookie quarterback at play. John says, who do you think the Raiders are rolling with at quarterback? O'Connell or Mr. Mullet Man? Mullet Man can. I guess O'Connell? No, wait. No, we got, that's where Gardner's there, right? Gardner Minshew's over there. No, it's Gardner, man. Gardner's got that job all day. Yeoman says Bill Walsh's influence on Pete Carroll still at play. August 9, 2012. Pete Carroll was the defensive coordinator for George Seiferd's 49ers in 1995-96, and Bill Walsh was a consultant for the team. Yes. Oh, Pete's taken a lot from Bill Walsh. He had a lot of conversations with Bill, a lot of kind of gleaming his mind and understanding his process and what built it and what drove it. Very much so with Pete. John says, finally, we got a good center and a coach that's willing to double team, and Aaron Donald out of the league. Go figure. Yeah. Just when we finally get the pieces in place to handle him. If Marshawn only snaps of his career was him breaking Ray Lewis's ankles, I'd put him in the Hall just for that. Yeah, that was a hell of a play. And not just Ray. Remember, he's faking out the other dude at the same time on that. It's one thing to cause a guy to fall on his face, but to do two guys at one time. Two guys, one time. More Chiefs is listening to the media dog on the Seahawks all season made me sick, but after today's game, some of those same media personalities aren't sounding so confident the Seahawks are last in the West. We may have to reevaluate the Seattle team is what they're thinking there. King Bomber, what's up, Brando? Going to be excited to watch the O-line analysis later. Curious to see how this game impacted the depth chart. Me as well. I don't know if it'll change a whole lot for him. I don't think anybody necessarily shined out of control. Nobody was bad on the other side of it. They were fine. It's made it a little bit harder, King Bomber, by the number of stack fronts and blitzes the Chargers were running through the course of this game. Angry B, get on seeing Deadpool before the official season so that you can be in on all the inside jokes. I'll try there, man. I'll try. It's busy this time of year, bro. It's about to pick up for me, so it's 24/7 run. Renee Loza, who do you prefer, McIntosh or Holani? I would go with McIntosh, the slight edge, but I love me some Holani. And the good news is that you don't have to pick between the two of them on this roster, really. One's the third, one's the fourth. But both of them are really good running backs and give us as good a third, fourth option as we've had on this team in maybe the history of this team. Yeah, King Bomber, the defense allowed a very low passer rating. And that's considering it's a low passer rating with some of those cheap yards at the end they were able to get, where they're down by 2 touchdowns and we're letting them complete the little 7-yard throw over the middle. Just completely suffocated that offense today. Didn't allow them anything. And did so on the back of King Bomber doing so while you were basically running a vanilla concepts across the board. Warchu says, my man George Holani, a.k.a. the Big Canoe. Should have 2 touchdowns, but watching Olu get destroyed, landing on his butt, made me glad we signed Connor. Just saying. I saw the same thing you did, War Chief, because Christian Haynes lands his block on that play. Olu's got to get his block laid, and Olu doesn't not only get his block laid, like you say, he ends up on his butt, gets the whole play blown up, 4th down stop. Like you say, part of the reason maybe we're seeing Connor Williams signing him being brought into the fray. But Holani looked great. That 1 touchdown run he had was awesome, where he started inside, gave a little juke, got outside, found an opening, and hit it. It was good. Dodson looked good, Bomber. Reek was awesome. He was strong in there. Yeah, Gardner Minshew all day on that. Minshew Mania, baby. Minshew Mania. And War Chief, I like me Holani. Don't get me wrong, man. You know me. I've been hyped up on him. I did that UDFA video on him. I know he's of all of our UDFAs we brought in, he's the guy likely to provide as much impact as any of them, I think. And he showed it today. He ran really well. Chris says Caleb looked pretty good despite his OC. Laughing out loud. Exactly. Hand Grenade says, just when the league thought Aaron Donald was gone, boom, Byron Murphy shows up. And King Bomber, I think McClendon Curtis is going to look a lot better at guard than he did at right tackle. They were kind of having to play him out of position there, and he held on kind of for dear life, but that's not his play. He wasn't a tackle in college. He's a guard. DeMarcus Caleb is going to be hyperanalyzed because he's the number 1 pick. And 2, he's a pulverizing character, but I thought he looked really solid in a small sample size. I did too. Based on what I saw from some of the throws, he made a good throw on the run. I thought he looked all right. First start for him too. He's a rookie. There's going to be those moments of growing pains on those guys at that age. And you're right. He is going to be hyperanalyzed for a couple of different reasons. Corey says back-to-back shutouts for the Mems. Let's go Mariners, Corey. Maybe starting to finally turn it on here. Find that hot footing again at just the right time of year. Garth Knight, thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate you for that. Garth, He says, Pete was at a dinner with Bonds and Griffey. Pete told Bonds to juice up, told Griffey to keep being a pussy. You forgot to put little known fact in there at the front, man. Little known fact. Thank you, Garth, for the $5 donation. One man's pussy is another man's high moral character per human being. John, it's funny how Denver gave up that draft capital to get Sean Payton to fix Russell Wilson. The first thing Sean Payton does is get rid of Russell Wilson, and how the cupboard's bare with a long way to go. Yep, it's definitely bare right now. Some of that bearing of the cupboard is Sean Payton's own fault in the way that he's gone about pushing the roster construction there. I don't know if, John, if Sean Payton was really sold on Russell Wilson. I wouldn't be surprised if we came to find 20 years down the line where Sean said coming into there, I didn't think I was going to be able to really fix Russell. I was going to give it a try, but I didn't make any promises. And I told them that if I can't fix him that first year, they have to give me the flexibility to be able to move off of him. And so, I always thought some of that was a little telegraphed with Sean in his whole approach to this, where he was going to make the appearances look like he was trying to get Russ on the straight and narrow. But at the same point in time, in the background, he was well acquainted with what he was going to intend to do. I don't know that for sure, John, and that's just a guttural, instinctual thing that I feel about the situation. But just feel like some of that was a little bit for dramatic purposes last year, like him blowing up on Russ on the sideline and telling him to stop kissing babies. It didn't seem as much about really trying to get Russ on the up and up and more about this guy's not working. He's not fit for what I want to do. I need to find a way to get him out of here. And I need to find the way to get him out of here so that the fans and the media aren't on my back or breathing down my neck when I do that. King, I think the other guy was Tyrese Knight. Saw him make some good plays, but most importantly, he didn't make any mistakes. I didn't see anything noticeable where he has a missed tackle or something out of his control. No, I saw the same thing, King Bomber. He played a really solid game. And to your point on the missed tackle, I'd ask you, can you remember at any point in time in this football game there was one missed tackle? I'm not joking. I can't think of one moment in this game for your Seahawks defense where they missed a tackle, especially missing a tackle in space. I mean, maybe in the congestion of the bodies around the line of scrimmage, but when you had a guy after the catch brought right to the ground, if you had a guy coming up in space to come up and wrap and roll, he was going to wrap up and roll. Bomber, awesome to see the guy prove all those analysts wrong. Indeed. And best for our Hawks future of this season and in the future, King Bomber, because it is such a thin linebacker core. We need this guy if he can to get better. It helps this team out tremendously if we can rely upon him in that backup department of things. Corey says, don't F with Junior, still the greatest sports icon in Seattle history, Garth. Oh, Garth's just having some fun. He don't mean it. Matthew, okay, got to go. Nice to revel in the meaningless. Win with y'all. Hey, great to revel with you as well. And I do think that's probably a good time here as we'll start to put a bit of a button on this. We'll go ahead and get the last of the questions on in as we're passing the 3-hour mark here. I think we've chopped this one up pretty good. Pretty good on this side of it. But you have a good one there, Matthew. Bean, Oz. I'm excited about this defensive line. Reed, Williams, Murphy, and Jones should be great. I feel people forget about Dre Jones because of his last year, but this is the highest paid free agent we have ever signed. I agree with you. He does get forgotten about considering his standing coming in and the amount of money you paid him, like you said, and that he was that good of a player to earn that kind of payday. I think he got lost a little bit last year, because he became put into a role of having to be the good soldier. You had Uchenna Nwosu go down to a season-ending injury. Boye Mafe was having to play too many snaps. You couldn't rely on Darrell Taylor on rundowns. You couldn't rely on Frank Clark on rundowns. You needed somebody to go out there and fill that role. It couldn't just be Mafe and nobody. And so you did kick Draymond out there. He had to be the good soldier. That meant some reduced snaps for him inside. And he did okay in that role. He did fine. But he does still have ability. He still can be a guy that can be a problem both on inside and outside. And he's going to play some more outside on early downs this year and still be more of that good soldier. But then what that means is it's less than stat driven on how he's being productive for the team. And it's more about, is he in that role helping this team to lock things down? And that's the part we'll have to see. But he's a good player. And John, Holani can do a bit of everything. A lot of catches on his resume out of Boise State. He can run strong inside. He's got some ability to bounce it out. He's got a little bit of speed to him as well. Orchie says Beast Mode should be in the Hall of Fame just for having the coolest and most iconic nickname of all time. Exactly. Agreed. John says, I never liked Oluwatimi, Mr. Baby Hands. Never thought he had enough play strength. It's a valid criticism to make of him, because it's something with him where he was not a pure mauler out there at Michigan. He is more of a bit finessey. And there are times where you can't always just lean on the finesse to get the job done as a blocker. King Bomber, I think Devin Witherspoon might have missed something early, but it wasn't an open missed tackle or anything. It was the guy breaking out of Witherspoon's grasp, but the rest of the team gets to him. Just really excited with how Knight played, something we haven't seen in a while. No, he was great. He was really good. And like you said, I don't see any mistakes from him, and that's in his first start as a rookie. And that is very, very encouraging. Again, too, kind of falling in line with what we've heard a little bit out of Knight out of camp, and that he's looked solid. Not been spectacular, but solid. And it's certainly not been in over his head, which you would have also been hearing about, or we would have been seeing in this game if that was also the case on the other side of it. Yeah. Grandizer says, say it, brother. Say it. Or go Hawks. King Bomber says, I wonder if he'll start next season if injuries are a continuity, or if injuries are a continuity with how it's been for the linebackers this offseason. I think King Bomber, there's a chance, even if those guys hold up at the front line of things, Dotson and Baker, that you still end up finding he ascends to a starting position by next year, and the team ends up deciding we'll keep one or the other. So then you slide him in, he becomes the cheap option. Maybe you give a Dotson or the Baker the contract extension. So I'd even say King Bomber, I might say there's actually a better than even likelihood that Tyrese, if he can, as long as he can ascend and develop and be good to go, is in alignment to become that starter then next offseason. Because I don't think that they can, both those guys go out and ball out this year. You can't pay them both. One guy balls out, one guy doesn't. You'll pay one guy. You'll have Tyrese fill in the other role. Hard to see how they're able to keep both of them after this year. And I think that's why both of them signed that one-year deal, is that they come in believing they can ball out this year and then go make a payday after next season. Warchie says, watching some of the Chicago media, even his teammates, they're not too enthused with him being a polarizing character. Laughing out loud, I think he might just be a little prime time for the Chicago Bears' liking. Yeah, it's a meat and potatoes kind of market. They're not usually used to that flash and dance. I will say, Jim McMahon was a pretty colorful personality in the 80s. Jim McMahon's got a little bit of some of the Caleb Williams-ness to him, just a little bit there. So, they grew to love Jim. Maybe they grow to love Caleb. Chris says the team tackling was nice to see. They were very fundamentally sound and never missed a tackle. I didn't see it either on that. And there may have been one in there somewhere around, but there wasn't many of them on the missed tackle. And as I was saying earlier on this show on that, King Bomber, you can attest to this. We'd have plays last year where you'd have 3-4 guys missing a tackle on one given play. And bad missed tackles. All 4 of them just putrid. Where he had a true chance at him. He had a true shot at him. That guy could have got him. He had the running back was distracted by this other guy, and he's coming in there, and he just completely whiffed it. Today, none of that. Jessica Sylvia says, Hawks Nest is cool, but I'm here for Pumpkin. She appreciates that. She does. Can you say thank you, Jessica? Say thank you, Jessica. Say Jessica. She's too tired, Jessica. She can only manage Jess. She just goes, yeah. She's beat. It's been a long day of football. She's exhausted. Garth, thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate you for that, Garth. Finishing us off strong and right, and so much support today through the channel as ever, as always. From the bottom of my heart, man, I thank you so very much. He says, Brando, I couldn't believe Pete talked like that to 2 great sluggers until I got an early copy of Win Forever 2. Well, the publishers just asked him to spice it up a little bit. Garth, you get into the sequel, things start to get a little bit more ridiculous. You got to top the original, right? More action scenes, more explosions, right? Now, instead of one love interest, we're going to have two love interests. You got to dial it all up for the sequel, man. It's the only way to bring eyeballs onto the page. People don't want to read in this day and age, Thank you, brother. Appreciate all your support, man. King Bomber says the intensity in practices has definitely made tackling significantly better. You would think that those two do go in hand, King Bomber. It's like the inter-squad game that we're going to have go down this midweek. And that it's a game where you risk injury. There's going to be some fights. It ain't going to be clean and great, but it's going to help to make the team tougher and better and more rugged come game day. And that this is the day and age we're in where you have to get creative in how you can toughen your team up to prepare them for Sundays. And it can't just be through walkthroughs and drills. It's got to be through the live actual action to make it happen. And I agree with you. I think that the intensity that we're hearing about carried over today, and you felt that today, that those things are connected. Jamarcus was also interested to see how Garrett Greenfield played. I know he got in there for a little bit, but I have to watch the film to see fully. I didn't see much of him either. He might have been out there. I might have missed him a bit. It's hard on my initial run through sometimes to catch some of those, especially in preseason when guys are floating in and out, to lock in because I'm doing the play-by-play with it. But take a look at him on the replay. Laughing out loud a little bit, dear. Exactly. No missed tackles. Big Murph did miss a sack. He was sharing with Hall. It's a team thing. Exactly, man. He knows Hall needs to get some of his confidence up. Murphy's already riding high on the confidence. He knows he's a dog, but he knows Hall's coming off that last year, tough year. I did forget about the missed sack there with Murphy. That is true, though. Yeah, Jess, she's tired, man. Look, she's right back to bed. I tried to get her to get, she can't do multiple syllables right now. Corey, JJ McCarthy looks good. They look pretty good overall. He did have the one interception, but didn't look bad. Jessica says, my friends call me Jess anyway. There we go. She knew that, Jess. She is psychic cat. You remember that about her, She does have latent psychic abilities. So. King Bomber says, oh yeah, it was a ridiculous D-line, misses the rare tackle, jukes past the linebacker, defensive back makes a lackluster effort, Quandre Diggs doesn't even make a tackle attempt. He shades him until someone else catches up. So you remember the play I was talking about then. The Niner game at home. Yeah, probably the worst play of the year for us. And you're watching four guys all have legit shot to take down the tackler, to take down the ball carrier, and you just saw a complete lack of effort and willingness to do so. I mean, it was one of the brighter moments of last season that was proof positive that something is wrong here. Something's really wrong here. And we saw none of it today, King. Nothing even close to it today, which is very welcome. And boy, you think about it, that stuff proliferating in the old defense, King Bomber. And if you can remove it now on this new defense, and to think of how that far that team was able to take itself last year with having that infliction upon it. Remove that infliction, how far does the team go this year? It's part of that hope. That's part of that happy side of the variance I often talk about. Or Chief Howes Morris, though, he had a good game seeing homeboy out there in flat showing little. Okay, War Chief, here we go. Howes Morris, though, he had a good game seeing homeboy out there in the flat showing little coverage skills. I think he has better coverage skills than Jordan Brooks. He just might. I didn't know he had that in his game, and my man's 6'6". So flipping his hips and changing direction like that is very, 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 very impressive. And we are going to put a button on this, guys. I know we'll keep going tonight, but please understand too with me, I'm about 7.5 hours in on the stream, so the voice is definitely about at that top end side of it where I gotta shut it down because it's gonna wear out. Hand grenade. Think Pete will be in the faculties helping out Mike in the future? B. I do believe he will be. I had mentioned I don't have a lot of insider knowledge, but I've got some very good insider knowledge on this that things are starting to heal, maybe potentially between some of those camps out there, and would not surprise me at this rate to potentially see Coach Carroll back part of this building, part of the process, even if just in the short term. And happy birthday, Holy. Happy birthday. Kevin O'Connell, definitely agree. Bomber. Oh, sorry. Speaking of Bomber. I'm bad. Utter dominance. I like it. Jamarcus, there was one play where Derek Hall set the hell out of the edge and forced the running back inside. Never thought I would notice an edge setting highlight, but it was really effective. He can do that. That's in his game. And that was something that you thought you were getting as a minimal parcel with Hall day one. Okay, maybe the pass rush is going to have to develop and it'll take some time, but his play strength, his size, his length will work from day one as a run defender, as an edge setter. And I think that part's going to instantly grow back into his game this year as he gets into year one. And I think we're going to feel some of his pass rush in addition to that too. That's part of what made him a second round pick, was that much like with Boye Mafe, you're getting a guy with some upside and you're getting a fully well-rounded player. He may not be some difference level making pass rusher that's going to be up around 17, 18, 19 sacks a year. But can he be a guy that gets you 12, 13 sacks and then is also playing well above average as far as a run defender? Yeah, he can, as far as that's where his upside lands. King Bomber says, might have been the scheme, might not have been, but it was definitely a needed culture shift. That's it. It ain't about really, blame games or anything. It's just, it was a time for a change. Here's the necessary change that needed to be implemented. And in implementing that change, you're going to probably see the maximum returns by doing that and making that choice and decision to do so. Jessica says, can't wait to see the flag raised for the regular season and the crowd going nuts. That D is going to be violent and scare teams again. Yes, ma'am, Jessica. Hell yeah. It'll be fun. King, I listened to a podcast recently talking about how sometimes when a coach is coaching for a long time, they sometimes forget to teach little details because they already know them. Yeah, I think a little bit of that. I do think though too with Coach Carroll, and I don't think it's just I don't address it again as a bad thing of Carroll. It's just a different style of way people look at it. Mike Macdonald is going to be a details guy. Mike Macdonald is, the way he looks at it is, my collection and understanding of these details will help me to coach this team into the right area where they need to be. I think Coach Carroll is more of a high-level coach. He is a guy that wants to be at the 30,000-mile view, and it's not about the details. It's about the bigger picture at play. Both of these stylings can work. Both of these stylings can have a methodology and approach, but I think that both stylings can also have a negative to where if you're not aware of the negative side of that styling, you can get lost within it. And within Carroll's negative on that styling is that because you're not in on the details, because the team's not always the most disciplined and fundamentally sound on things can be a little bit loosey-goosey, and you can lose due to that sloppiness. And that is what started to rear its head at the end. And so it's really about minimizing your negatives, minimizing the things that are the holes, and every coach is going to have to be aware of what are the holes in his game. And I think that's as much as anything that what got lost there, King Bomber. I don't know if ever Carroll was that true detail guy into those little minute details of this and that. That's one of the reasons why, he had the simplistic scheme of the cover 3 buzz defense that he ran for years, 96, 97% of the time. That's not a guy that's looking to get into the details of stuff. That's just a guy that wants to have his guys line up, play fast, play ferocious, and trust in that. Jessica, have yourself a great night. I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. Kelly says, B, you're going late. You're awesome. Thank you, Kelly. I had a great time tonight with y'all. I always have a great time with you, though. Isaac says, I'm so wired and stoked. It's going to be hard to sleep tonight, but I'm at least going to try. Fun chopping it up with the Hawks Nest fam. Go Hawks. Well, I appreciate that. And, once we get to regular season, I might go all night with you guys on that. I got a video I'm going to try to chop up here for the post-game reaction here for the folks and get that done. I got a little bit of a late night here still. Might chop on, do a little bit of some things. In utero, how you doing, man? Good to see you not. Good to see the house. Bomber, anyway, it's about that time of the season where all hope is high, and this defense truly unlocks their potential, and the offense under Grubb's real thing. A Super Bowl is in the realm of possibility. I think it's a little bit like the Packers last year, King. You have a tremendously young roster, but a very talented roster as well. And does the roster from a talent standpoint have the ability to get to a Super Bowl and push for a Super Bowl at this point in time? Yes, it does. but are things going to have to work out just right in their favor? You know, are they going to have to kind of avoid some things for that to happen? Yeah. Or it's a little bit like King Bomber, the 2012 year with the Hawks, right? Because 2012 was a season where your Seahawks were really not that far off of the 2013 season. That team was in very many ways similar to that 13-year Hawk team. And you had that Atlanta game where you came so very close. But if you win that Atlanta game, could you have gone into San Francisco and beaten the Niners at that point? Could you have gone into Baltimore? You'd gone head-to-head with Baltimore at that time and beaten Baltimore. I think you very well could have. So the potential is there within the team for it to be there and to happen this year. But to predict it with certainty or to say that they're a contending team as a front runner, I wouldn't want to go into that lens to make it sound like, yeah, when you talk about who's going to be a Super Bowl contender this year, you talk about the Niners and you talk about the Chiefs and you talk about the Seahawks. You know, I don't think you can as strongly say that, firmly as say that, but the potential in there, and that if this young team can come together as quickly as sometimes we've seen these young teams in the past come together, especially in the sport in this day and age and where it's geared towards, which is as much as ever youth, and not having to necessarily be veteran-y to go out there and win a Super Bowl. Yeah, it's possible. Spaces, do you have any cake? Oh, you're talking about hand grenade. Garth Knight, thank you for the $5. Garth finishing us off right, man. And Garth, man, you dropped like 10 donos today, brother. Thank you for all that support to the channel. I really appreciate it. I really, really, really do. It's always put a smile on my face, not just because this is what lets me to be able to do this full time, so I don't have to go get a job, and I thank you guys for that. Garth with the $5 says, Pete, just leave. These Harbaugh cats don't need you around. It's over, Pete. He'll come back. He'll come back to take down a Harbaugh at some point. That's when Pete gets in the building. We don't play a Harbaugh this year, though. This was our only shot. This was his chance to come in and do some things. Old School Seahawks says, I'm doing this next. Dab for you, Smokecock. Let's go. Don't forget the pass. Forget the pass button. Bruh. King, I don't think we're for sure competitors like you said, but I think there's a shot in a few things bounce our way in the wild card, like the Bengals a few years ago. We got a shot. Ring first year McDonald era. It'd be crazy if it went down like that, King Bomber. And look, I think the variance exists here. And I, as much as even after this game, I'm only more reinforced in my belief that the variance is true and is real. I think that on the downside of it, that you could have a Seahawks team that's at 7 wins this year. That we come to the regular season and find the preseason is smoke and that it's not complete reality and that you do need that year to kind of find and forge your way through. And that's a possible reality that we face. It's a little bit of like a multi-dimensional thing going on here. But the other side of the variance is 12 wins to me, King Bomber. And that's even beyond your wild card proclamation there a little bit. And that is to me, the recognition of there is the talent here to be to that 12 win spot. You won 10 wins in a complete rebuild year with $50 million running off the books in dead money. You came back last year with all of the issues and all of the problems and all of the things that you were dealing with, and you still got to 9 wins last year. That team with this young talent, another year ahead, another great draft seemingly behind them in the books, can't get another 2 or 3 wins on top of what they did over the last 2 years. I think they can. But it's the variance. And I think both sides of that variance are true and real here, King, where it could be on either end of the scale on that. But if you get to 12 wins and you get in the playoffs, get a 1 home playoff game, maybe. Anything can happen at that point. It's the beauty of the NFL because it's down to 3-4 games at that point. It ain't about, we got to win this series and got to win that series and that 7-game series. It's one off all the way down the line. Megan back in the house. Just caught me as I was wrapping up here, Megan. Megan says, Harbaugh may not want Pete, but they could always leave, just saying the Hawks Nest. Old School Seahawk, I love you, Hawks Nest. We've been trying to hang up the phone for like 30 minutes. I know, man. I can't quit you guys. I can't quit you. Just can't do it. We will here. Space 7-hour streaming today. Oh, we got a long one today. This will be a normal regular season though. So we got our initial 3.5 in on the game. Did a half hour over in the Bleacher Report. Got another almost 3 hours and 40 minutes here on this side of it. So we chopped it up well today. I think we covered it end to end, and we got this thing pretty well figured out. And the bottom line factor of it, as we figure this out, is that this team looked great for an opening stanza of your 2024 season. I don't need to reach conclusions. Don't need to say that this means we're going to be a contender. But I think that this does indicate a little bit that we weren't going to be a failure. I think this is an indicator that Mike Macdonald wasn't a bad hire. Not just off the back of what this has been here and now, but off of what we've heard of training camp. Where if you're going to have a coach who isn't over his head, who's too young to be getting that job, who's too soon to be handed the reins, you're going to hear reports about that guy being in over his head, having it be too soon, too early. We've seen it time and time again, numerous times over. We've not heard that about Mike Macdonald, and that was before we got to this game where they came out and they played such an outstanding game, end to end, a thorough team victory. Things cleaned up in this game as far as what had been issues in recent years past, cleaned up here, corrected. Doesn't guarantee that it will be fixed by the time we get to regular season, but it's a great initial thrust by Mike Macdonald. This is a great, hello 12s, this is what I'm about, here's my initial salvo. So I am going to get hyped by this win. I ain't going to take conclusions from it, but I'm going to feel damn secure that we've got a pretty good coach in our midst and whose messaging is landing and whose messaging is true and whose brilliance, which has been spoken about time and time over from a variety of different people, also seems to have a wee bit of truth to it as well. Does it not? Does it not? We're going to have a fun week this week of chopping this up, of taking a look at this, of discussing this. I hope you guys are ready for it. I thank you guys for watching today. Garth Knight, who has been amazing throughout this show with all of his support and donations. At the top of always making me laugh, Garth. I thank you for that. Thank you for a final $5 donation to finish all us off here. You're very kind, man. You really are. And you, as I say, I just want to say, you guys, let me do this. It is the donation. It ain't ad revenue. It ain't the sponsorships. That stuff does help, but it is truly at the end of the day, your guys' donation support, you guys hitting that like button. It's all of those things that really do help this thing go and help this thing run. So thank you, Garth, for all of your support to the channel here today. Another $5 donation says, Brokeback Hawks Nest. I wish I could quit you, Brando. I wish I could quit you, Garth. I wish I could quit you. Hell of a way to finish us off here, Garth. Hell of a way to finish us off. Folks, you hit that like button if you could for me on out the door. If you maybe want to get a chance, go utilize my code on Underdog Fantasy today. That code is NEST. They've got a couple of great ongoing promotions, including an Angel Reese 0.5 points, higher than 0.5. She's going to get higher than 0.5 in the game. That's an easy win on a parlay. Put that together. Go win yourself some money. And not only can you go get yourself an easy victory in the back of this Angel Reese site-wide special, which is worth 3.25 times on a freebie win at that almost. But you can get up to $250 matched up to your first deposit when you use my code NEST the first time. Up to $250 from me to you through the Underdog Fantasy app. And all you've got to do is use my code NEST or click the top of the description link below. I also, just on a couple quick notes, we'll be kicking out some newer kind of content as we be getting going forward here into the future of this week. So be on the lookout for that, as we're going to have a kind of a specialized show that's going to be a bit of a common of what you can expect on Wednesday for during the regular given year. So get ready for that, as it's a little bit more structured in some of our versus some of our other live stream shows in the way that I'm going to be setting that up. So we got that running. And just last final note, if you guys haven't already, please do get subbed up to my Clips channel. So all of these live stream shows are going to be clipped up over to this Clips channel throughout this year. We're rolling strong over there. We've been cooking well up over to almost to 1,500 subscribers over on that side of it. I'm going to continue to keep feeding that Clips channel here throughout the year with daily drops over on that side of it. So if you're not subscribed up over there too, get subbed up over to the Hawks Nest Clips channel today, as I will continue to keep feeding that on in. I want to thank all of you guys in the chat, the numerous people that supported today, not only during this stream, from Garth, Feed Me, Chase, Michael, Robert, Cameron, Y2K, John Robinson with a $50 drop, Megan, multiple donations over, Radu Turkin, but I know also Ethan Tech World Poncho. We also had a bunch of folks earlier on the stream that also donated some big time donations over there. So thank you to all of you guys over there. You show the love every time I go live. It's just tremendous. And I say thank you so many times over, just because thank you never seems enough for all you guys do to allow me to do this, and all of the love you do show me on my side of it. It's unbelievable. And I do thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for allowing me. I get so excited for days like this. I get hyped for days like this to be able to do this with you guys, and you allow me to do it. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. I will be back very, very soon. And after a win like this, after an opening win with a new coach like this, I shouldn't have to hype you up. I shouldn't have to get you ready to go. I shouldn't have you just telling you, look, this team's actually good. They might be able to accomplish something. You should start to already feel that blood pressure arising. Those hands should start sweating. You should say, man, I thought I was in for a kind of a rebuild this year. I thought I was in for a kind of a wait and see. I thought I was going to have to be patient. We don't operate off patience here in Seattle. It's not the expectation that this team's got to be great this year, but it might just happen. We might just go out and shock this nation. You got pundits and talking heads that are telling you this team's a fourth place team. Cardinals are ready to overtake them. It'd be a miracle for them just to get to third place. What if we just F around and take the whole damn division? What if we just do that? I'm not predicting it, but the potential is damn well inside of this team. So let's not sell them. Let's not write off our end of this year quite yet just because it's a new coach, just because we moved on from a legend, just because it's a young team. There's potential here, and they showed that to you here today. Running vanilla schemes, both sides of the ball, barely unveiling much, still dominant nonetheless. Hopefully we can keep building on this. It's going to be a fun week of practice here. Got the inter-squad game against the Titans, I think, over on Wednesday. Another preseason coming up here soon. I'll be back covering it all. But until that time, I shouldn't have to remind you. You should start to be getting hyped up if you aren't already. If the changeover didn't have you hyped, if the great reports coming out of training camp have you hyped, if the fact that you're here, they've got fight clubs to create the toughness out in camp, they're trying to instill it so much out there. Well, then how about a win like this, going on the road into Los Angeles, holding that offense, driven by an offensive mind in Harbaugh to 3 points, and being really good and functional on the offensive side of the ball while your special teams remains a dominant function of the team. Get hyped, get ready. This Seahawks team might just shock the nation. And what a beautiful thing that would be to see. I thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. We will be back soon. Until that time, please, by God, don't you ever forget, especially after a day like today, don't you? Go Hawks.